everyone. Welcome to the Steve Maxwell Drums Podcast. Don't forget to check us out on our website at www.maxwelldrums.com and then our reverb stores at Steve Maxwell Drums-Chicago and Steve Maxwell Drums-New York. We also have social media, 2 Instagram accounts, at Maxwell Drum Shop Chicagoland and then at Maxwell Drum Shop. And then also on Facebook, Steve Maxwell and Steve Maxwell Drum Shop. And then, of course, check us out on Twitter at Maxwell Drum Shop. We will interview players, collectors, drum and cymbal builders, and also teachers about all things percussion. And you can go to YouTube if you want to see the video. We'll have pictures of drum shops, of drum sets, badges, cymbals, all kinds of fun stuff. So let's get started. We hope you enjoy it. 3, 2, 1. So today we have Charlie Dresser, old friend of mine. Happy to have you here, man.
Yeah, definitely happy to be here.
It's a beautiful day out today. Still warm. You know, we're out there getting sun, which is really nice.
Yeah, it's important.
and yeah, everything's kind of getting back to normal. Usually I do like a chronological thing. Yeah, let's just talk about you. So like, we met at the academy, but we're both from Wheaton, which is the city west of Chicago.
Yep.
Really nice little town.
Yep.
I guess you would have gone to Wheaton North, or maybe you did for a little while.
I did not, but I would have. Yeah. And I still, had circles of friends there. And
right.
Stuff. Yeah.
And you were like, you were in like bands but we'll get into all of that. But let's start with you. Like talk about early music days. Like what got you into music? You know, you have a musical family, which is cool. So right. Tell us a little about yourself, man.
So my parents are musical in different ways. My dad's side is they're just a long line of natural musicians, whether of not so much notoriety or anything, but just great musicians around the family. My mom's side, particularly her dad, my grandfather, was a drummer and was he was actually the president of the Chicago Jazz Institute and ran the Jazz Festival.
Nice.
And I like to say best friends with Count Basie because you can kind of prove it. I guess Count Basie was invited to dinner at the White House with Ronald Reagan when he was president, and he could invite 2 people, and he invited his wife at the time and my grandpa. So I think that constitutes best friend proof, I would say.
Very cool.
But then so he died when I was 5. So kind of didn't, I always heard and remnants of drum stuff.
Remember him like sitting on the drum stool?
Very, very little,
Sure.
Yeah. But the kind of the memory and all the stories and everything.
Did he live around here? Was your family?
He lived in Chicago.
Oh, he was in the city.
Yeah, he was in the city.
I wonder, they're in the Fine Arts Building now. I wonder if they were in the Fine Arts Building all the way back then, the Jazz Institute.
Oh, right. I don't know.
We started there. So we started like a floor away from them. We used to always kind of work together on if they needed any drum information, they'd come to us.
That's right. Yeah.
And the guy who used to work at the shop, Ben Gray, he worked there as well. So we definitely have connections with those guys.
Well, my grandpa's funeral was at the old Jazz Showcase, the Blackstone Hotel.
Oh yeah, I went there once.
So he was really tight with Joe and Wayne. So yeah.
Cool, man.
Yeah, definitely. I know, but it was weird.
What was his name?
Ed Crilly.
Ed Crilly. Okay.
Yeah.
I would imagine it's very likely some people listening know that name.
I bet. Yeah. And even run-ins throughout my younger life and getting into jazz and stuff, like Joel Spencer.
Sure.
He's like, I don't know if you knew my grandpa, and he was like, yeah, he got me the gig with Count Basie, and I was like, nice. Oh, okay, cool. So totally, the memory was always palpable, and definitely, yeah.
That's
cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so your parents, do they both play instruments?
My mom plays piano. Yeah, she still takes lessons weekly, actually. She's a great piano player. My dad is a saxophone player, and he still plays, here and there with friends, jamming.
I got to see them just recently when you did the jam session. It was great fun. Yeah,
they came out. Yeah, that was awesome.
Yep. And so like, when did you really start playing? What age were you?
I started drumming when I was 8. Because I saw a movie like The Beatles' The Hard Day's Night. My mom had me and my brother watch or whatever. So got like a drum set for my birthday and drummed. Started taking lessons right away. My parents were really supportive, and then got pretty into it for being that young.
What kind of kit was your first kit?
It was like, I think we still have like the snare drum from it, but it was like one of these $99 Toys R Us kits.
Oh, okay, cool.
So that was the very first one, and then soon thereafter upgraded to a Pearl Export. Solid upgrade.
My dad at one point had a Pearl Export. I've mentioned that once before on the podcast. There was actually a time that he owned one kit, and that was the only kit he owned.
Yeah.
Like when he was working in his day job and focusing on the family and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I remember. Black Pearl Export. I think they were probably weren't they like only available in black at one point? I think.
Yeah, black and then like wine red or mahogany red or something. Sure. I don't know. I used to read drum catalogs. So
yeah, good solid drums.
Yeah, right. Well, the ones nowadays are like. Yeah. They're great. They're fine.
You can get really good stuff for very, very affordable.
Yeah. Why are you doing what you're doing? I'm just kidding.
right. Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's like some people would look at like the drums and be just like, why would you pay so much? But there are little things
I only say that in jest. I think there's still such a huge difference. But it's cool to see how a cheap drum set can do the job and be cool. But different things.
You look at like what's the difference between like a Honda and a Ferrari? They both like have the same basic function.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But like one of them, just all those little things,
Definitely.
Single ply.
Yeah.
And then just made in America. That's a huge thing.
Yeah.
So few things are made in this country anymore, and. And you gotta love that. But anyways, okay,
I'd say then
about eight. Yeah, that's about the same age that I started. Although I started piano first at about that age.
I was still into sports a lot and stuff. I remember though, it was like I was 12 or like turning 13 or something, or 12. And my brother was like 3 years older than me, and he was really into tenor sax. He ended up going to DePaul for jazz studies, and so
I
he was.
I never met your brother.
I don't know if you have. Yeah, he works.
I probably did the YJED thing. I probably at one point made in there.
Yeah, but so I followed in his footsteps and was really into the jazz band and whatever in the middle school and everything, and then it was Tyler Beach at YJED. Tyler Beach was in the original YJED. My brother was in.
Let's talk about what YJED is, because I believe, didn't your parents start that?
Yeah, basically, my mom, yeah. So like my brother was like in 8th grade, and they were looking ahead to Wheaton North, and he was really into tenor sax, really into jazz, and the band director at Monroe Middle School, Robert Blazek, was phenomenal, and they won state all the time and all this awesome stuff. It was great for a middle school, it was incredible.
Sure.
And but so my mom was like, oh no, he's really into it, but the Wheaton North Jazz Band at the time like was really not very good.
Sure.
So she was like, she got together with the middle school director and was like, you want to do like an all county high school group, because Wheaton North sucks and Sam wants something better. So it was like this really like mom
that's awesome,
stepping in. Right. Well, now it's still happening, and I've had people come through the studio, young musicians in high school and stuff, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm in YJED," and I'm like, "Really?
Where do they rehearse now?" Because I was in it for 1 year. I remember it was such a challenge for me because I'll say this: reading drum parts is very different than reading any other part, because you're not playing note for note. You're doing, as a drummer, you really got to do like 3 things in a big band. You've got to kind of watch like the conductor, you've got to watch the music, and then I like to kind of have an eye on the audience too.
Yeah.
And then sometimes even a 4th thing if there's like a soloist.
Right.
And you're trying to like juggle all of these things.
Well, and there's a lot of options. I mean, you're left to, I guess you're right, like, rhythm section has some freedom, but I mean, those horn players are, they're doing their written thing,
right,
except for when they're soloing. But there's a lot of, in terms of setups and stuff, there's a lot of options for drummers, and you got to
give you an outline.
Your ideas. Yeah.
Totally. And it's just, for me, it was like, I had like tons of experience playing in like combos and playing all different kinds of music. But when it came to like those rhythms, it's a real skill. You have to figure out like, okay, so the hit is on the and of 2,
right,
so you got to set that up. You start,
right,
and that's something that.
Well, that was hugely. That was hugely monumental, though. Yeah. But like, I like, John Riley and the Art of Bop Drumming books, which Jason Patera used to work out of. We'll talk about. But like, that was, I always heard this story that he used to do the Village Vanguard big bands, the weekly gig.
I got to see him there once.
Really? Yeah. So
it's
he was
tiny little place, huge band.
Right. And he was the long-standing drummer, and they would always say like, oh, John Riley, they know like they have like, you know, a however many song catalog, like 150 song catalog, and he doesn't use any sheet music. He memorized all of it, and it was this whole thing, or this is what I heard. But then it turned out he was like looking at the trumpet music. Looking over the shoulder because the stage was so small, and that's basically all he needed. As a big band drummer was where are their hits?
Yeah,
you know, and then that.
It's interesting because a lot of the best big band drummers didn't even really read music at all, and they would just kind of memorize the tunes. And some drummers, they get like too into the music, and then they're not. You know, I'm sure you've seen it before. They're not really like feeling the band, and it's maybe not swinging quite as much. And that's what I'm talking about. It's that balance of things. It's really difficult to do. And have you ever like sat in with a big band before? Just, you know, like never play with them before, just play a tune.
Yes.
I've done that a couple of times.
Yeah.
That is like the biggest challenge.
Yeah,
maybe
absolutely.
There's a coda, you know, like the feel changes. And
dude,
sometimes you get lost in the music.
You're jarring my memory. This was a highlight gig when I lived in California. I played on the Long Beach Pride Parade, which is like one of the big ones, Long Beach, California Pride Parade, on a float with like the LGBTQ community
really
big band. Yeah, it was fun, but I didn't know them. I just stepped in for that gig.
I love outdoor gigs, man.
Yeah, I know. But it was exactly that. It was like, here's the charts, and we're gonna start rolling the car in a minute, and we'll start.
Wait.
Oh my god, okay.
Can we just gotta look at these for a second?
Yeah, right. Definitely.
Because usually, I'll put like markers in and kind of at least look at the chart when you've never seen it before. I sat in with a band once, and they gave me the chart to look at for like a minute, and then I sit down and like, oh no, we're not doing that. We're doing another one.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
but that's that's the fun of it.
Definitely.
But anyway, so your parents, how old were you when they started YJED?
I would have been, I don't know, like maybe fifth, sixth grade.
Okay, cool.
Fifth, sixth grade, yeah. And then, it continued on for those following years. And then, so I used to go to those rehearsals just because I was, it sounded good and it was awesome. And
where were they rehearsing at that point? Was it
at that point? It was at the middle school.
Oh, okay, cool.
That the band director, Robert Blazek, was at. So I think I must, if I was going to that middle school, I just stick around after school. But I liked hearing them rehearse and do homework and stuff. And that's where I met Tyler Beach, he was a guitarist.
Great guitar player, yeah. Very talented guy, very talented.
Right, and so, and then heard about the Academy. And then went and shadowed. I must have been, that was 7th grade, because I became obsessed with skipping 8th grade and going to the Academy.
Oh, nice. Did you get to skip 8th grade?
I came really close, honestly, to the point where, I talked to teachers and stuff, I don't know, I had to take the Constitution test.
So who was your first drum teacher?
My first drum teacher was this guy, Jordan Hill.
Okay.
Who you should seriously look him up. Jordan Hill. Now he lives in, I think, Southern California, and he does this. He's like a mechanic, but he put together like a car part drum set, and it's incredible. Look it up, Jordan Hill. I don't know if he goes by something.
Something on YouTube. He's got some videos.
Yes,
awesome.
Yeah.
I'd
Jamie, could you pull that up?
Yeah.
So
I wish we had. Someday we'll be able to afford it.
Yeah, right. No, Noah can do it, man. Get Noah.
Get Noah
queuing it up.
What I can do when I put it on YouTube, maybe I'll put a link to the.
Sure. Yeah, that can pop up. That's cool.
And that way people can.
Here, I'll point to it. Put it right here.
Yeah.
But then, so that was only like, I don't know, a few months, and then Tom Tedrin. Who taught lessons out of like a practice room at Glenbard South, I think, on Butterfield.
Cool.
Prolific teacher, though. I mean, he has taught so many people. So awesome. Yeah.
Nice.
So he was great. And then there was a few others.
I know you studied with Paul Wertigo at one point. That was
So then
that was the first I kind of heard about him. I knew about him. But.
That started in like 7th grade. So it was like 7th, 8th, 9th grade. Maybe sophomore year of high school. Stopped after that.
Yeah, when you came, I guess I'm like a year, 2 years older than you. When you came to the Academy, you were definitely burning.
Sure. Oh yeah, man, that was fun.
I remember. Yeah, you encouraged me to practice because you had all these like comping things down. And before you came to the school, I mean, there were really good drummers, but no one quite had the feel for the music and kind of a light touch too. There's certain things like that very few drummers these days have, and it's very jazz centric. Like you can play a drum set very quietly. You can
Sure.
play it very loud and
Yeah.
having dynamic playing. And
that came from
tasteful comping.
yeah, right. Well, and that came from just playing like with my brother, and
Sure.
in jazz and like the first performance I remember having was we got like a gig playing on Sunday mornings at a bagel shop in Westmont.
Oh, cool, man.
Literally, yeah, crazy. But and they would always tell us too loud, it's too loud.
Bagels and jazz.
Yeah, totally, man.
It's too loud, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so
always
I
a
had to keep
challenge,
it
man.
down. But I will say that the distinct difference of when I got to the academy and started studying with Jason Patera, Dr. Patera.
Our friend, there's a podcast I did with him. That was like the third one I ever did.
I think I watched a good amount of it.
He's a great guy.
Yeah. But I think like the distinct difference was like I was getting into jazz and the idea of jazz drumming, but I was still like there wasn't coordination, you know. So like all my comping would work around my ride cymbal pattern. Yeah. So then when I got to the academy, it was like no, do this, constantly the ride cymbal pattern, and never don't do that.
Right.
And then be able to do everything else over it.
And
then you can make decisions after that, but at least you develop the coordination to not have to, you have the freedom to choose.
One of the things you used to do, I remember you would have the hi-hat off beat. So a lot of the times, you end up just 2/4 all the time.
Right.
And then, like the much more modern style. And you were one of the first guys that I saw doing that.
It's like throwing it in weird spots.
Yeah, you use it it's almost like a dangerous thing to do as a drummer.
Sure.
And it's funny, like I find, all that coordination stuff after going to the academy and like Jason always had us working on the stuff, but not too many people really, they would do it, but they didn't really get past like maybe the first, 10 pages.
Sure.
But then, you came in and you were like probably already to almost the second book.
Well, I
when
thought
you start doing the triplets and the.
Sure. I thought it was so intriguing. And the way that Jason would take it, the system he had for going through that material was so captivating to me. And it played to like my OCD mind where I was just like, ooh, but then you could do this and then you could do this.
Do you remember there's like the rhythms, right? There's like da 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 da.
That's example one out of syncopation.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you do that and you do the hi-hat, but you
while filling in triplets.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's one exercise I remember you working on at some point.
Sure.
at the school.
Yeah,
it was awesome. It was a really great school. We would have half the day would be education in like normal, history and math. And
we keep on at the academy though. This is the Chicago Academy for the Arts.
Right.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
For those who don't know.
Yes.
Then the second half of the day we did all music, and it was just so cool. You have. Each room would just be musical notes coming out.
It was like Tuesdays and Thursdays were like sight singing, rhythmic dictation, and then practice time. Right. And then like Wednesdays and Fridays or something were like the other stuff, piano lab and jazz ensemble.
I always looked forward
practice
to
time.
Being able to play drums. that was my the drum set playing days.
Yeah, definitely. That was great.
Never enough bass players. That's another thing.
So I felt like that was somewhat of this college experience. And educationally, it kind of like that's what Jason took us through was basically what we probably would have seen at a lot of the the college
it's like
jazz
your
programs.
You do at least your first year. To people who do all their high school experience, you can really get your first 2 years of college.
Sure.
And
it was technically a college prep.
And,
I don't know what that means, but it made sense.
I remember.
So then I didn't go to college because I was like,
The only reason I didn't pass theory 2, I passed out of theory 1, was because I didn't know figured bass quite good enough. And
figured
Roosevelt
bass.
has the Chicago College of Performing Arts at Roosevelt.
Yeah.
They have a really tough theory program, and they weren't messing around. And figured bass is kind of complicated. It's not easy to learn, and that was the one thing I didn't I didn't excel at.
Sure.
I was so frustrated.
Yeah, totally.
I had to sit through a class where like I knew everything. Except that,
I know, and it's interesting stuff. There was a lot of the sort of traditional cadence-based, traditional songwriting exposure that we learned. There, I didn't do the college stuff, but I've throughout the years you
did 3 years at the academy.
I did 2.
Oh, 2.
And I should have done more.
Did you? So you just did like freshman and sophomore?
Yeah.
And I guess I'm 2 years older because I think my
Right.
senior
You were a
year-
junior when I got there, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. They might. And then it was. So who are some other players that you played with at the academy? Maybe
Dylan,
I remember
Mackenzie,
Dylan.
and
Yeah.
Ryan Whitney.
Nice.
And they became, we went through many formations of bands and
I think
stuff. throughout
Dylan's
the
in
following
California,
years.
right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
He's playing in a band called Dirty Verdi.
Cool.
They're awesome. Yeah, they're great.
I never was really that close with Dylan, but I knew him.
He's the man.
Yeah.
He's great.
So you moved to? I think you moved to California like right after that. How did that whole thing go down?
So I was gigging. I moved to the city, and so I finished up high school like homeschooling style, like a remote program, which is awesome. It's fun, and and I was like playing in bands, 16, 17 or whatever. And then as soon as I was 18, I moved to the city.
And this is when we lost touch. I mean, I was at Roosevelt and I was in the city. I guess you were in the city too, but we never really ran into each other.
No, totally. But yeah, and then I started to just gig as much as possible, and more rock, more pop, and I realized my fascination with studio work and stuff, so I really started to try all those things. But yeah, I don't know. So, but that I was doing that till like 2009 or 2010.
Okay.
Then moved to California to LA.
And you were in LA for a while.
Yeah. And I did a lot of great. I was doing great stuff in Chicago, but I did kind of feel like. I don't know. I just felt like, okay, I was exploring the idea of like performing as a focus, because that's kind of all you see when you grow up in that like jazz world in particular, or the educational world. That's kind of the implication is like, you're going to either be on stage at Carnegie Hall or, Lincoln Center or something. It's like, okay, but then you realize that there's like so many other ways to make a living as a musician or
and you have to
be a professional
creative,
musician, right?
Yeah, not
so
gonna
that
pay
was
the rent with jazz gigs easily.
right. No, I mean, and you can, but I started to realize that was a choice. That wasn't the only route, and
Sure.
So I explored this whole other thing. But then I was like, okay, I guess I'm trying to be like a Josh Freese or something in Chicago, but like. I don't know. So I wanted to move to LA and just see if like that's what I wanted to do, be a high level touring drummer or whatever.
Sure.
And yeah, did some good stuff. But
LA's got a lot of opportunity, I think.
It does. Yeah, there's a lot going on.
A little bit less competitive than New York, maybe, because New York's just like so many people.
Yeah, but that's definitely when I like kind of fell out with jazz. I was just like, this isn't necessarily relevant to what I guess I'm going for, in money wise or just likelihood.
And did you do like studio sessions there when you were in LA?
Yeah.
I think there's some like video of you when I was when you were gonna do the jam session. I was just looking up to see if I could find some music that you had done, and there was some like studio thing that was a video of you playing.
I played in some really cool bands. I played with some really great people.
Nice,
definitely.
Any of those groups still going, or any things that we can find that I can?
Yeah, well. So that's when I started touring with this guy, Jimmy Necco, who's a singer for a band that's called Ours. And they've been around for, I was actually a huge fan of theirs. And then when I was in LA, I started touring with him after he had released like a solo album.
Cool. Is that stuff like pop or like
it was like
prog rock?
It's kind of like moody rock.
Moody rock.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, moody rock. I mean, the guy's voice is insane, and he's well known for his voice and stuff. He's always been compared to like Bono and Jeff Buckley and stuff like that. So that was like,
cool.
And we did, that was some big gigs. That was a nice taste of arena rock. It was fun.
It must be fun. Yeah, like when they hook you up to the big PA at the bass. Whoa.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, and that we did some touring with the band Aha.
Okay.
Take on Me, They were doing like their farewell tour. I think they ended up coming back. Go figure.
Nice.
But they were doing a farewell at the time tour, and it was crazy. Yeah, it was great. So that was, I got that touring wise, and then in LA, I was, that was when Craigslist was actually like kind of active, and you could find, things on there, people that were actually doing stuff. I don't know what it's like now, but.
Also, you used that as a tool to.
I did in LA. I did. Yeah.
That's cool.
So I ended up in a lot of studios out there.
I don't think I've ever found anything good on Craigslist. Yeah. Actually, I have found some vintage kits that we bought. That sometimes Yeah, it's an interesting place to go and find stuff that maybe like for people who are a little less like internet savvy, they don't know about eBay or
Sure.
or stuff like that. They'll just pop it up on Craigslist.
Sure.
Sometimes you get some real good deals on stuff.
Yeah.
Most of the time though, it's all just a bunch of junk.
Yeah. But I was also ended up living with my friend Trevor, who's from Chicago, Trevor Manier, and
Musician?
yes,
What
guitarist.
does he play? Oh,
Amazing guitarist, and he now plays with Dawes, who's a pretty big band right now.
Nice.
He's still living in LA, and he also plays with. I'm sorry, he's got. Man, I'm forgetting this guy's name.
It's all right.
It's one of the Wolfpack people, It's part of the Wolf.
Yeah.
Theo Katzman.
Noah really digs that stuff.
Yeah, so he just toured with Theo Katzman.
Cool.
And yeah, that's crazy stuff. He's doing insane stuff.
Yeah, that sounds worth checking out.
Yeah, definitely. So that was fun. And then you'd appreciate this, but I was playing with this guy, Stahl Vaughn, who is from Kentucky. He was the nicest guy I've ever played with. He was so cool. And he's a songwriter. And he started doing this like project idea and was calling it like the Living Record or something. And he was doing it at a drum shop in Ventura, just off the 101 in North Hollywood area on Ventura Boulevard. And it was I forget, it was called like Modern Drum Shop, but it was all vintage. And it was owned by a Russian guy.
Yeah, I know about that place.
Do
Sure.
you? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
This Russian guy, owned it, and it was, I don't know, kind of like this. But we would set up shop after it closed, like every week for several months, and Stahl was basically trying to get, just the right takes, and then put together a record out of those get-togethers,
Cool.
Yeah, it was cool, and he brought out a lot of guests. And so that was fun to play with a bunch of different people. Dwayne Betts, Dickie Betts' son, he's a great guitarist who's now doing a great band, Allman Betts band. It's like
Cool.
with one of the Allman Brothers kids or whatever. So they're doing some high level touring circuits and stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, definitely. So and played with.
Did you ever leave the country on any of these tours that you were doing?
Yeah.
Or was it?
Yes.
Oh, cool, man. Where'd you end up going?
UK and around Europe.
Nice.
Yeah. So that was with AHA mainly, and then some Canada stuff. That's not
You guys
necessarily
trash
overseas.
any hotel rooms?
No, weren't too lively.
Sure.
Yeah, but that was
That's
crazy.
bad. It's
Well,
good.
so and we were talking about being Welsh earlier or something, but like I got to play in Cardiff.
Cool.
Wales, yeah. So
I've never been to England. I've been to France and Amsterdam, but I've never been to England. I'd love to.
Yeah.
They speak English there, which is
They
kind of cool.
do. That helps. No, man, London is the craziest city in the world, I think. Yeah, it's just incredible.
The pub culture seems really cool. That's one thing that we really don't have here. There, it's like a big thing, like a lock-in. People here don't even know what that is.
Right. No,
and I didn't know what it is, but I saw it on Shaun of the Dead. They were talking about it. Great movie.
Yes,
You know
that is a
what I'm
great
talking
movie. That's a funny movie. I know.
Yeah, absolutely hilarious.
Yeah. I never saw, what was the other one he did after that?
There's like
I don't think I saw
three.
it.
There's like three. There's that one, and then there's one where they go on a pub crawl. Actually.
Oh yeah,
it's
right.
like
I don't think I saw
something, and he's kind of a loser, and then but he wants to go back and get his old crew together, and he wants to finally finish this pub crawl. And actually, after watching that, I've always wanted to go on a pub crawl. We should do it.
After hearing your description, I remember why I didn't see it.
Sure. No, it's totally worth checking out, man. It's really funny.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I won't ruin it for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, the ending is very unexpected. And then there's another one where he plays a police officer.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Hot Fuzz.
Yeah, that one's
I don't think I
hilarious
saw
too.
that either.
I got like a Blu-ray with all three of them. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Came, I think it was in the like $5 box
Yeah.
at Best Buy.
That's awesome.
But yeah, man. So you were in LA for a while. When did you move back to Chicago?
Like 2013.
Oh, okay.
2012, 2013, yeah.
So you've been back for a while, and
Yeah.
did you have like your own studio at all when you were out in LA, or were you just kind of
So
using other
like,
people's stuff at that point?
no, it was like the first 2 or so years were really trying to hit it hard, and then so that was realizing I was like touring, I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm cut out to be in a different bed every night and all that stuff. And
Yeah,
the money
it seems
was,
exhausting, yeah. Sounds
like
like fun, but then until you actually do it,
yeah. And you just had to be a real like hustler money wise because you can't. I couldn't really budget. So like, and you know, when you're a drummer, you're at the mercy of whoever you're playing with. So it's like, are you gonna tour? Are you gonna book another tour? And maybe even if you're, you know, I was making okay money when I was on tour, but it's like then you're not. And I was getting all held up with like, oh, but then this other guy hit me up, but I don't know if I should go try to play with him because I'm playing with this other guy and he'll take that personally. You like don't know where to put your time and efforts because, you know, and then it's like, okay, now they got to book a tour for me to actually work, you know. And then when you're in town trying to stay busy enough and bring something in. So I picked up a teaching job up in the way up in the valley, the West San Fernando Valley, almost by Calabasas. It was just beautiful. So up where Joe Rogan does his podcast, it was actually like up the street. So yeah, and that was fun. I taught there for like the last year and a half that I was living in LA, and yeah, that was really fun, just teaching. And that's when I kind of realized, and I was still doing studio work around, and I remember I did have to tour for like 2 months in the middle of having the teaching job, and I almost, you know, I had to go back in the middle of the tour just to like convince the guy not to stop using me. Because I had a sub filling in for me while I was on tour, and everyone started liking him so much after 2 months. So there was this break in the tour, and I told the guy I was playing with, I was like, I have to go back to LA to like teach a few days to like.
What kind of a school was it?
Keep my students.
Was it like a shop that had?
It was like a music shop, but it was cool because they had one unit that was like 4 or 5 lesson rooms, and then they did rentals, and then they had the space next to them was vacant, but they were renting the space next to that. Right. And but it was like nothing yet. So it was just the drum teaching room. Awesome. So it was nice, man. I had my own, it was like separate. And yeah, I had a lot of great fun students.
What about the jazz scene in LA? Did you like hit up any fun sessions, or did you start anything?
Yeah, no, I went to a couple jams that were cool. There was one at, I forget, it might have been like the Ace Hotel, somewhere downtown LA. And then there's always stuff happening like the Baked Potato, which is like the jazz fusion mecca.
West Coast jazz, like a Shelly Manne, you know who that is?
Yeah, definitely.
When I think of West Coast jazz, he's kind of the drummer that even though I don't think he spent his whole career out there, but
sure,
I think the Manhole, that was his club. I think that was in California somewhere.
Okay, yeah, maybe, but yeah, I know that's kind of the West Coast. That started. I don't know. West Coast always has a smooth approach. Yeah. But there was some incredible stuff happening. And on like the east side of LA, kind of the more hipster stuff, and you know, a lot of really good jazz that you would just come across in a tiny bar, and they don't usually do it. It was kind of random, or like Twitter was getting really popular at the time, so people started announcing things like the day of.
Do you think the world was better before Twitter?
I don't know.
I don't like Twitter.
Maybe not for that reason. But
I use it for the shop, and it's like I always say, it's kind of cute sometimes, but oh my goodness, people get so obsessed with it.
Know. It's a mind.
It's like a miniature world in and of itself. You know, it's like that exists separate from reality, yet does influence reality.
Yeah. But like there was so much happening in LA, and so many of my favorite drummers, like Matt Chamberlain. Well, that was what was. Part of the frustrating things, though, is so like Matt Chamberlain did a residency for a month, and he was bringing all these guests every week to this place called the Mint, in like West LA. But I happened to be working like every night that he was doing it. I didn't get to catch any of those, so I just look him up on YouTube like the day after and realized what I had missed like 2 miles away. It was kind of frustrating. Yeah, there was always stuff going on. You know, but sometimes it'd be so like last minute, like I felt like I had to be so in the loop to go catch it. Yeah. Crazy stuff though, you know. I mean, like New York. That's why I felt like those two cities are just like it's all happening, you know.
If I were to move, I'd want to go to New York. Yeah,
yeah, man. I mean, it's such a crazy alive place.
It's so funny how the scene in each city is so different. Chicago's got its own. Chicago's got a lot of really interesting like avant-garde stuff going on.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's kind of how I think of what's going on in Chicago now. And then
like back with like Ken Vandermark and I don't know, a long history, you know.
Definitely.
Was Sun Ra from Chicago?
I think so.
I don't know, but yeah. Hamid Drake, you know that drummer?
Oh yeah. Totally.
Oh man, he's like one of the unsung. You know, like I've never caught him live. Because I feel like I never hear about the gigs until after now.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's
just look it up on YouTube and you're like, what? That happened?
There's some really really interesting styles that come out of Chicago.
Yeah.
Vincent Davis, he's a really really energetic drummer.
Okay.
He used to come to the shop, and I used to go see him sometimes. Really really cool guy.
Okay. Vincent Davis.
And there's all kinds of stuff. And then New York's got a little more of that kind of traditional bebop type thing going on.
Yeah. I think New York just has everything, you know.
When I went there
last,
it was Christmas like 2 years ago, and I saw some of the best music I've ever seen. It was actually like no drummer, just piano, bass, and drums. I was trying to go to a session, and the place was completely full. They wouldn't even let me in on Christmas night.
Wow. That's awesome.
I was like, seriously?
Totally.
I thought it was going to be, empty. And
right.
It's like everyone was there.
Yeah.
And so I had to go. They had like a sister club. And so I went there, and oh my goodness, it was so good.
That's cool.
Yeah. Geez, yeah. Nowadays, though, the club scene has been pretty...
yeah, I know.
In a small club, everyone breathing on each other. Although here, the Jazz Showcase is opening, and my parents went to go see a show recently. So
okay. Yeah.
That's...
they can pull that off, the sit-down thing.
It's a big place, too. Yeah,
I think I might be playing outdoor beer garden.
Oh, that'd be fun. That's the perfect kind of gig for this time when everyone's scared.
Yes, I know, man. Yeah.
And while it's still summer, everyone, get outside while you can, because it's going to get cold, and then we're all going to be stuck in again for another. That's all right though. Like I was telling you earlier, I'm kind of a vampire. I never go outside.
It's a season for sure. I know. We'll see.
It's so beautiful though. Yeah, when every day I come to work, I pop open the sunroof and just absorb the sunlight.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you were in LA for a while, and then you came back here, and was that because you wanted to pursue more like teaching, stuff like that?
Kind of, yeah. I wanted my schedule. Well, I didn't really care to be traveling as much or playing the hired gun game.
Sure.
So I was like, you know what? And where I ended, in LA, I ended up essentially teaching and doing studio work.
Right.
So I was just kind of like, okay, I like being in one spot and doing these things. I'm fine with that. Why don't I just go home and do that where I know people?
Was LA really expensive? I mean, it is,
yes,
right?
very expensive. So I knew it was never.
But
yeah, and I'd never, people there make more money. So but I could never the prices for houses. Anytime I looked them up, I was just like, I would never do that. Sure. No matter what, no matter how much money I had, I could never justify that kind of housing price. Right. So I knew I would never buy anything there. So
falling apart, old like 1-story house, $1 million.
Oh yeah, no, I know, man, it's nuts. But I mean, it's rightfully so. It's beautiful. I also I don't know, the people there are, there's great people there. I have a lot of friends there. But it's interesting socially because people are a lot of implants, a lot of people from everywhere else. So a common question I noticed at least was just, as soon as you say, hey, what's your name or whatever, it's like, oh, where are you from? Because most people would not say LA. Oh, Pittsburgh, I'm from wherever. And it was a little bit lurky, a lot of people where it'd be like, oh, what do you do? Right. And they're, like, well, a little bit of this and that.
I love what?
What does that mean?
California accent.
Yeah, right. But it
does exist. It's funny because everyone doesn't think they have an accent. I have an accent.
I think I have an accent.
We have a bit of a Midwestern kind of twang.
Yeah, I think I have some harsh A's going on.
Definitely. And you go to the East Coast, and that's actually where my family's from. And when my dad doesn't have as much of the Midwestern accent. He's got a little bit, but he's got a little more of kind of a non-regional dialect because he grew up in a place and then moved to that's how you get that.
Yeah, totally.
But California, man, I when I was younger, I always wanted to live there because I was big into skateboarding, and you can skateboard all the time.
Yeah,
I was like,
definitely.
oh man, I gotta go to either San Francisco or LA.
Yeah.
Are you into either surfing, skateboarding, or snowboarding?
No.
That's the cool thing about California. In the same day, you can do all three.
No, totally. I remember driving back from San Francisco once where there's this thing, Grapevine Pass or something, and it's basically, you're coming into the LA area, but it's mountains, and it was snowing. It was blizzard conditions, and we're trying to get around the truck and all this stuff. And then within, not even kidding you, 25 minutes down into the basin, it was back to t-shirt. And I was like, that's crazy. It was insane. Growing up in the Midwest, you don't see that stuff.
Yeah,
and I was captivated by the terrain, the fact that every day you see a mountain, it's like popping on the highway, like mountains, and LA's very close to it. I mean, you can go hike within 10 minutes from where I was, at least. So yeah, it's awesome. It's beautiful.
Yeah, totally.
And it's like, kind of a fantasy land, but also like the fact that there's not extremely definable seasons.
Right.
Kind of, I didn't have much of a cycle. It was just kind of like, it was hard. It's kind of like right now with the virus where it's like, what day is it? That's a little bit for me. I didn't have the regulation of these like 3-month patterns of seasons, and it was kind of weird.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I actually like the weather here. It really makes you appreciate the good days, and there's so much variety.
Yep.
But man, it goes straight from like really cold to like really hot.
Yeah.
It's a very.
I used to keep my drums outside.
What?
I used to keep my drums outside in cases.
Really?
Yes, but right outside the side door. Because it rains so little in LA that you would hear about it on the news for the days before. The rain's coming.
What?
Yeah. No, really. So yeah.
That's awesome, man.
I know. It was crazy weather, amazing weather there.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to do that here. it's either going to get rained
that's
on
insane. Yeah.
Yeah, the climate here. I try to keep the shop humidified in the summer because it's good for the wood. The wood is expanding,
I was gonna say.
I try to do it, and it's just I pay attention to it. It gets so dry in the winter here, and then in the summer it's so humid.
Yeah,
crazy. But I love it. I love Chicago weather.
Yeah. So what you just don't want a lot of moisture, essentially.
Well, I mean, you want to keep
I was gonna
as
ask
constant as possible. Yeah. Kind of.
Okay.
So basically,
don't send it into extremes and stuff.
Yeah, if possible. Like if you the only thing that can happen, like if you put a drum set in like a garage or something. I think, I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure the reason that wraps sometimes will like split is because the wood is just bigger in the summer because it sucks up all the humidity, and then the winter it gets smaller. And it does that 60 times,
right? Yeah. And
after a while, that crack every year and some finishes are more prone to that than others, like the old satin, let's see. I don't think I have any in here right now, but those kind of like 3-dimensional looking finishes.
Yeah,
they're those are pretty prone to doing that. Mm-hmm. And then the onyx finishes that Rogers used to do. Those are they always crack.
Oh wait, the purple Rogers out there.
Oh, that's super
purple
rare.
Marine pearl.
Yeah. That's not even a cataloged finish.
I've never seen that.
Yeah,
so beautiful, man.
And for everyone listening, there's a video that my dad did that has that. It was when it was in his office. It's like a dark purple, and it may have been like an endorser kit. Possibly.
Okay, that's what Noah said. Yeah, an artist kit, most likely.
Who knows? Yeah, we've got the cocktail one, and then we've got the 2013-16 with the snare drum.
That's amazing.
And they're B&B lugs, so the lugs tend to crack, but they're in pretty good shape and really, really cool kit. Yeah. They've also got the tall boy hoops.
Oh, okay.
Were designed for calfskin heads because calfskins, similarly to when it gets humid, they get floppy, and then when it gets dry, they get really tight.
Okay.
And so every winter they're going to get tight, but then every summer you're going to crank them up, and then they keep getting longer and longer because they like stretch out. So those tall hoops make it so that you can play with the same head for much longer.
Right. Okay. Wow.
Sometimes old vintage drums, if they have a calf head, there's literally like no clearance, like the head and the hoop, because the hoop is so far, cranked
I kind of
out.
like that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
What's your favorite kind of hoop?
I don't know. Well, I mean, I don't know that.
I've actually never asked that question to a drummer bore. It's I should ask that more.
Yeah.
I'll write it down on my list of questions.
No, I mean I'm always learning the details of drum craftsmanship.
Sure.
I mean I know the basics, but I'm not sure.
I
know that I've always
flange.
liked. Okay, what?
Triple flange is the most common. That's the one that has it kind of comes out and catches the stick.
Yeah. Okay.
Then there's the Slingerland stick saver, which goes inwards instead of outwards on the top.
Okay.
And then see the snare right there?
Yeah.
That's a Slingerland stick saver.
Okay, I kind of dig that.
And then
there's some good rim shots going on with these
Peter
guys.
Erskine really likes those.
Okay.
And
then this
for a while.
I've played
That's a
some
stick
really
chopper.
Yeah.
Those will. If you're playing a rock gig, you'll go through a lot of drumsticks with those.
I did like a 7-song album with an old 50s Gretsch like that.
For jazz, that's actually my favorite. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That was like hip hop though. It was all detuned. It was just like it was the nicest wet thing ever. It was awesome. Yeah, which was an interesting application.
Metal snare or was it
no,
wood snare?
It wasn't metal, but yeah, it was wood.
Yeah, you can get a lot of interesting effects from. I mean, there's so much variety in drums.
Yeah,
and
I know.
And like when you're recording, there's like like the right way to tune a drum. There's so many different ways.
Yeah, I know.
And for that kind of stuff. I mean, yeah, you can just do. I remember one thing you used to do, which was you probably got it from. Let's see, who's that piano player that was really, really popular when we were going to high school?
Brad Meldau?
Yeah. And one of his drummers, he would like turn the snare drum upside down and do kind of like breakbeat kind of stuff.
Yeah, actually, I think
breakbeat.
I saw that first with Joey Barron.
Oh, okay,
drums
cool.
for like John Zorn's Masada. I think that's the first time I saw that. Yeah, that was.
And you got to hit it lightly because you're gonna pop a hole in the head if you're not careful. But that's a really cool effect.
I know.
No one does that anymore.
yeah, I know. I haven't seen that too much. And you could do cool things like, I don't know, rub or with the stick or whatever against all the snare wires to get it to do.
Yeah, totally. You remember Brad Meldau's version of
thing.
Wave, the tune Wave?
Yeah, Wave.
I think the drummer did that on that tune.
Sure.
I'm not sure, but maybe he didn't. He might have just tuned his snare really high. But
that was Wave and Mother Nature's Son, right?
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
That's Brad Meldau's. Yeah, Wave goes into Mother Nature's Son by the Beatles.
Yeah,
I think it was those two songs paired.
It's been so long since I've listened to that album.
I know, me too.
It was Wave in a completely different,
Yeah,
style.
he plays vibes on it. Brad Meldau.
Oh yeah,
he plays vibraphones on that one. Yeah, that's a crazy version.
Yeah, that's a tough tune, man. Wave's got really weird changes.
Yeah.
We left off with you chronologically. You were back here in Chicagoland, and we should definitely get into what you're doing nowadays.
Yeah,
and just whatever led up to it. Give us some info.
Moved back and started teaching. Developed a roster of students. Was gigging enough, and then started teaching out in Naperville, which I'm from Wheaton, so it was nearby, but I'd never really spent time there or anything growing up. So started working in Naperville and saw a kind of a bustling community of musicians of sorts. A lot of activity was happening amongst up and coming musicians there, and kind of all across the board. A lot of real into it hobbyists.
Did you teach it? Was it like Naperville music or
School Rock?
Oh, okay, yeah. And I did know that you were there for a while.
Yeah, cool, School Rock there. And
was that on like Ogden somewhere?
That's on Washington.
Okay,
like a little more by the train tracks. Yeah,
nice.
Yep, and I had started teaching at a School Rock when I was still in LA for a couple days a week.
Okay.
And then had another teaching place.
Yeah.
And I taught, that was fun. I taught some like celebrity kids.
Was it mostly like real young students?
Yeah, I mean, 16 being probably the oldest,
You can really make a difference.
8 through 16 kind of.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. But I also had students both in LA and back here. I've always had, students who are adults, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds.
Did you ever have any kids that were really difficult, like ADD?
Yeah.
I had this one kid. I did some teaching at a school for a while, and I had a lot of really young students. Like most of them were great.
Yeah.
There was this one kid. He was a really sweet kid, but he was just so intense.
Yeah.
He used to hit me with the drumsticks. I'd put my hand on the drum because I'd be trying to teach him like, okay, this is. I just start with like right left.
Yeah.
Because he'd just go like, and he'd actually. The one thing that I found teaching really young kids, a lot of the times the really talented ones who get it right away, they don't even like appreciate it. Mm-hmm. They just like play it real quick and then they're like whatever, and then they just move on and they're really fast at learning.
Man.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And it's the ones that really need to work at it that once they get it, they're like, it's like really simple coordination. They just won't be able to get it. But once they get it, it really means something to them.
It means something. Yeah, that's true. And it is hard to, have a talented up-and-comer that can get things quickly but doesn't necessarily master them. They're not played with mastery. They're just, executed pretty much correctly.
Sure.
And there's a huge difference, but it's really hard to convey that and a reason why. And that, performance things help, and so at the studio I have now in Naperville.
You do some teaching there now, right?
Yeah, I still do some teaching.
I think when I went
even
there,
after
you might have been at a lesson when I popped by.
So I was doing a lot of teaching, and then before coronavirus, and all the time, and then also had another fantastically talented Chicago drummer, Earl Talbot, who has
Earl's
been in
great.
Naperville.
I'd love to get him in here and do a podcast.
It'd be
Let
great.
him know.
He's such
I don't have his number, but I saw him at the jam at your place. And,
And, I think he might be back in town, but he kind of got stuck down in Alabama with his parents when COVID hit.
Oh, geez.
And so he was down there for a minute, and I think he might be spending more and more time out on the West Coast. I know his kid lives up in Seattle now.
Yeah.
But so he had a bunch of students too. So we had a bunch of those lessons going on and some other ones. And then since the virus, I've gotten back to a few students.
Are you doing
reached out to a few, but
anything over like video?
No, not me personally.
That's the new.
I know.
Thing, man.
I should just bite the bullet, but I've been talking to friends who are doing it, and they say what I expect.
Sure.
And I just don't think I'd be into it. I don't know.
It's like doing a podcast that way. A lot of people that I've talked to who are worried, they don't want to come in. They say, why don't we just do it on video? It's just not the same.
Well, what is why don't, even on CNN or, mainstream news, there's a delay.
Yeah.
Why is that still the case? Because why don't they just hop on a phone connection where there's no delay? I think that's so weird.
Yeah.
But anyway.
It's the technology.
But
you think they'd have a little bit of a better, for the professional
or
stuff.
FaceTime.
FaceTime is pretty good.
Now, does it have to do with the censorship delay that they have? No, I don't know.
Who knows, man? Yeah.
But no, sometimes
awful,
I see a news clip and I'm like, geez, they're still lagging? That's still a thing?
Yeah.
But, so I don't think, and that's what I've heard, I've talked to teachers, people who are doing remote stuff that are like, you just you can't play along with them. It's kind of your time and then my time to talk.
Right.
And, and that's fine. I would almost rather do it in a back and forth of audio voice memos or something.
Sure.
Here's me explaining something for 2 minutes. Why don't you send me back you trying it or ask a question and then I'll hit you back.
Yeah, my wife, she's at the Chicago Youth Symphony Orchestra, and they're really trying to figure out the safest and the healthiest way to do everything. And one of my suggestions was why don't you have for the conductors a proxy conductor?
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times people are really worried more about the teachers. You know what I mean? Because some of the teachers are. Let's say a teacher has a health condition or something.
Oh, sure. Well, and they're in control of themselves, but you have multiple people walking through. You're not as in control of where they've been and all that. It's a whole thing.
Big screen. You have the main conductor and then a proxy guy. That was my suggestion, but we'll see. I hope they figure out something that works well, and for public schools too.
Well, and for us, we basically at the studio, there's 2 small rooms that we just those we haven't reoccupied. So there hasn't been other teachers coming back yet.
Are people still coming in and using your space for their rehearsals and stuff?
Yeah, rehearsing and recording we're able to do safely in big enough rooms and everything. So that's awesome. But in the meantime, it is kind of, that's fine. But so I'm doing lessons in a bigger room. So I've kept trying to keep it to one day so that, other stuff can happen. So that's kind of the facility change of sorts where smaller rooms aren't as happening,
Yeah, you get a bunch of people in a small room, and that's kind of especially, horn players and vocalists.
Right.
Putting all that air out. If you happen to,
so at the studio, we've been saying for rehearsals and stuff, bring your own mic, and sometimes people will have a pop screen or something so it's not just constantly spraying all day. So, but I mean, also I've been it's kind of assumed that if you're going to show up with your band, you guys probably are already hanging out together. We're not offering a place to come expose for the first time. If you're coming to rehearse with your band, you guys have probably been seeing each other. So, there's a certain level of control that you can do, and then at some point it's
Yeah.
You know, hopefully you wash your hands and you're all responsible.
Yeah. So the school. Why don't you go into the name, the location, do a little, or the recording studio?
Oh yeah, Sound Summit. Yep.
I keep saying school because
Sure.
we were on the.
Well, you came by for the drum
thing.
festival.
Yeah, it was
which
cool.
was basically a celebration of me and Earl's students. Yeah,
Right.
Totally.
We provided some drums for you guys. Earl
yeah.
dug the Rogers kit, which has since sold. And
nice.
And then I think we had what else? It was like a DW or something.
Yeah, yeah. There was a DW where we did a showcase downstairs, and all the students played, with play along tracks.
Yeah.
And then you gave like 2 sets for the clinic upstairs. That was awesome. That was
Totally.
a lot of fun. Yeah.
Totally good time. And
Yeah.
And so it's on Washington and
that's right in downtown
Naperville.
Naperville. Yeah, right across the street from like Barnes and Noble or Potbelly or wherever. Yeah, when you come into downtown.
Yeah, it's a cool little community. Downtown Naperville is great. You got the Riverwalk and a lot of good restaurants.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
And so do you still have the little performance space downstairs?
So that basically we stopped doing shows, obviously, and then a couple months into the lockdown, got approached by a record shop that had been by the train station for like 5-6 years, called Purple Dog Records.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and their building had just gotten like sold out, so they had to find a new space, and they were like,
That's
hey,
perfect,
you're
man.
not doing shows, are you? Yeah. So
Yeah.
they've come in, and that's fantastic. Yeah, that's great.
Do they have
And
a lot of vinyl?
They do. It's
Nice.
all vinyl. They got some CDs and tapes, but it's all vinyl, man. You got to come by.
Do you remember CD Warehouse? You remember that place?
Not particularly CD Warehouse.
You would go
no.
and trade your old
Disc
CDs?
replay? Okay.
Same, I think same
something
idea.
like that. Yeah, man. Right.
Yeah, man. The young people, man. The like my kids. Your kid. Like they're just gonna miss out on all this
Well,
stuff. Like,
no, cassettes are coming. Well, vinyl's big, but cassettes are coming back
but
too.
do you remember like the smell of a new record shop? Because all the vintage stuff is cool, and there's some new stuff, but just the smell of like the cellophane. And
I remember the smell. Oh yeah, I remember the
there.
smell of CDs. I grew up going to Borders and looking through their racks.
That's
for
exactly what I'm talking
hours.
about. Man.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's an experience.
Yes.
And vinyl's even better, and cassettes. I'm old enough that my first couple of records were cassettes. I had the Star Wars theme track,
Sure.
and then I had Sublime on cassette,
Nice.
which that's a good one.
Yep.
And then I think there might have been like 1 or 2 others, and
Yeah.
I had like a little boombox only with cassette. And then I got my
totally.
first CD player. I was like, oh, sweet.
Right. I remember when that.
And mixtapes. I had a guy here once who was doing a recording session, really, really young guy.
Okay.
And he didn't know you could re-record over tape. He thought it was like permanent. I was like, no, man. That's not how it works. Yeah. Is there a race head?
Well, my dad was always like an audio-visual technical guy.
Sure.
And so I had like the latest technology for burning CDs. And how would I do? It was on a CD. It was from the radio onto CD.
Right.
How did I do that? I don't know. But either way, all my friends were like, "Oh, you could do that. Burn me this CD of all these songs."
Did you like maybe put it on cassette and then?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe.
Because for a while, I mean,
I'm pretty certain it was onto CD and not tape. It was like in middle school, and I would take them, the hits from the radio, or maybe no, I compiled them from the actual CDs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which I guess was like a multi-disc burner or something like that. I don't know. But my dad had whatever. And all my friends would hit me up. Yeah, like, dude, can you give me whatever Eminem song and this,
Sure.
whatever.
Oh, man, I remember,
fun.
some of those Eminem records came out. Everyone was like dressing like him.
Yeah. But I mean, I kind of
didn't, though.
like, what's going on. Like, I know what you're saying about the way, it used to be and stuff. I think there's some of that nostalgia that's appreciated to at least a surprising level from what I've seen.
Yeah.
Maybe not to where it's mainstream to know that kind of, visceral experience. But I kind of like the way that the whole Spotify generation of listening is rolling out.
Yeah,
I'm okay
I mean,
with it.
Music's still there. And
New
there's a lot of
music is
good
being
stuff
discovered
coming out.
at an incredible rate.
Sure.
Yeah, Spotify hooks it up.
In many ways, I'm very old fashioned.
Yeah.
In many ways, not only that way. Yeah,
No, totally.
Just the experience of, and then the booklet and records. Yeah, like
you'd
much
really
stuff.
appreciate. And I noticed, like, I don't know how deeply listeners are absorbing material. Maybe very, very deeply, or as deeply as you used to. But when you spent $15.99 on a CD from Borders or something, like, I listened to the shit out of that thing.
Right.
Like I had to, because it I convinced my mom to buy it for me,
Yeah.
and I needed to absorb it.
In the
so
order,
like I knew records so heavily, you know, and deeply.
It's in the order that the artist wanted you to listen
That
to
too,
as
yeah,
well. You know,
getting
it's
the
a
entire
real-
experience.
Yeah, that's
a little missed, right? I do wonder. I'm not sure how much album listening as opposed to like, you know, shuffle singles or whatever. You know,
Yeah.
but well, albums aren't. I don't know. Albums are harder and harder to come by. Bands do a lot of singles these days.
Yeah,
singles and EPs.
So many things have changed. Yeah, and back in the old days, like bands used to be like the four members, and now it seems with a lot of really popular music, it's just the sidemen. It's the one artist is the only
There's
one.
that. There's also a lot
constant.
of collectives and stuff like. What's the crazy jazz group out of North Texas?
I'm not sure.
They got huge like a few years ago. I'll think of it.
There's so much good stuff out there. You're not talking about. I'm not sure.
No, come on, man.
The one
It's
that I'm
gonna
thinking
hit
of, I
me.
don't think it's from Texas.
They used to
though.
they made kind of the live session video thing popular, and they had all these rotating members, and then they turned into whatever the Ghost Note label. I'll think of the original band's name or whatever, but
Collectives are cool, yeah. I played in a couple bands kind of like that. It's always fun. It's a little weird though, because a lot of the bands like you got all different kinds of members. People are always there, and then sometimes people are there like very rarely.
yeah.
Do you do any instrumental stuff these days? Or any like do you like write your own music at all?
No, not really.
Focusing on recording and
I'm recording. Yeah,
like
half of the stuff I'm recording.
the studio is awesome. It's a really cool space. Definitely.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, it's real welcoming, and you got like a really nice control room. Really a nice kind of like flat, like sound treated area to listen.
Yeah,
Very,
sure.
very
Thanks.
cool.
Yeah, totally.
And then
yeah.
the front room is cool too. It's got like a kind of I don't know, cool vibe.
Yeah.
Is that where you're teaching the lessons now? Like that big front room.
Yeah, and actually the studio. Yeah.
So you got like a control room and then the studio room.
Right.
So
Yep.
you're in there.
Yep. And sometimes in the bigger live room or whatever. Yeah.
Nice.
Totally. Yeah. Those are kind of the bigger.
And so
rooms.
what year did you start the place?
2016.
2016.
Yeah.
And that's how we got back in touch. You called me at some point. You might have even left a message on the shop phone.
Yeah,
And you were like, hey, if you guys are ever looking to move, maybe you
Yeah,
could
I
move
know,
under us.
man. Are you still?
It would be cool to be in downtown Naperville, but man,
would be.
we'd need too much space. Yeah, it'd be like
Yeah, I know.
the rent would be astronomical. You know.
Yeah. Could be.
Yeah, we've got so much stuff here.
Right.
Drums everywhere.
Why don't you open a side shop that's
Side-
meant for walk-in?
I mean,
Tons of walk-in.
When we first moved the shop from downtown Chicago out here, that was a consideration.
Right.
But it just can't pay for itself.
Sure.
The rent. I mean, you got to keep your fixed expenses down.
Yeah.
That's why, man. I used to be in the food truck game, right?
Yeah.
And that is the best thing about food trucks. Your fixed expenses are just so tiny.
Yeah.
And you can have like a restaurant, and then you add a food truck to it. It doesn't add any expense other than maintenance of the vehicle. You know.
Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We should make like a mobile recording studio. Truck.
Yeah, there you go. Hold on, man. I'm just looking up the name of this band.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
gonna kill me.
I think I might know who
It's
you're
like-
talking about, but
yeah.
I can't remember either.
That's fine.
And if it is the group I'm thinking of, I also didn't know that they were from Texas.
Yeah, or like they originally started out of like the North Texas. Yeah, man. Whatever. Continue.
But yeah, for sure. But yeah, it's dead air.
Yeah.
It's all right though. But yeah, and so around 2016, and then it's great, man. It's a really cool place.
It is, yeah.
And-
No, there's a whole local community that it's able to service and stuff, which is really awesome.
Yeah, Naperville. I missed the shop being in Naperville. There were some. Actually, that's how I know Noah. Noah is from Naperville.
Right. Noah's a total Napervillian, and he's one of the better drummers out of Naperville, man. He's
Absolutely.
awesome. Yeah.
Did you know Noah before you met him here?
No, but like we've known similar people for long enough, dating back or whatever, that, I'm surprised I hadn't run into him. I probably had, and, we ran into each other at some point, but didn't recall. But yeah, no, I didn't know him until, started coming here.
He's a great player. He's got a nice touch.
Yeah, I know. He's a groover. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, very, but I think one of the most important things being a drummer and like finding success is kind of having like a degree of like humility, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's like so important because a lot of the times, like, people are going to be constantly asking you to do things that maybe you don't quite agree with, but it's like it's for them. You're there to really make them sound as good as they possibly can.
Absolutely.
And everyone knows like the drum sound they're going for. You know what I mean? Like you'll have guitar players tell drummers how to tune their drums.
Yeah.
When was the last time a drummer told a guitar player how to do his tone? You shouldn't do that pedal.
Well, I mean it's interesting since starting to record so much more. Yeah. I look at drums in a different way.
Sure.
Like it is interesting how, if you think of it like sonically speaking or whatever, the drums constitute so many different sounds and tracks.
Yeah.
Amongst, it's like when you mic up a drum set, 10, 12, 14 mics or something sometimes. And
that's funny, man. Yeah, I love, this is cool. You're the first guy in here that I can really get into studio stuff with.
Ah, sure.
Because I've never really, I've interviewed people and talked to people who do studio stuff, but not someone who like owns their own, place.
Sure.
But yeah, man.
But yeah, it's a lot of different, or even if you go with like a Glenn Johns, a broken, like
Simple, yeah.
I recorded something the other day that was only 5 drum mics.
I was watching this video kind of when we first started the studio here. I did a lot of research trying to figure out what I was going for and how we mic the drums and everything. And I was watching these videos. You were saying like 14 mics. Yeah, this girl, she was from California. She had like a really really hardcore West Coast accent.
Okay.
And I think she had like 25 mics on the drum set. It was insane.
The most I've ever done, I wasn't engineering, but I did a session one time where I think it was like 17 or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's
a lot of channels.
Yeah, but sometimes they don't all end up getting used. You just want to see what you end up with.
The drums
feels and stuff
occupy the lowest and the highest frequencies.
Sure, that's a great way of looking at it too. Right.
Cymbals and the bass drum.
Yeah, but it is, and I don't know. Yeah, so it's interesting to look at it from that perspective, where I kind of get the amount of pressure that the drums are under to be the right thing all the time. Sure. And also we do a lot of pre-production at the studio with my buddy Adam Cryer, who's been there since the beginning. He was half the reason that a place like that I decided to go with opening and everything.
Sure.
Because he works with so many bands and solo artists looking ahead towards recording before he ever get into Pro Tools or whatever. He's helping to arrange and dissect and songwriting and all that. So but a lot of these pre-pro sessions would be so heavily about the drummer, like, hey, what fill are you doing there? What feel are you doing there? What, and it's like, why don't you ask the guitarist what he's doing or something? But it's like, hey, the drums got to sound great first and foremost. If the drums don't sound the way you want them to sound for, a recording or whatever, then it's really hard to make the rest of it happen.
Right.
So
and a lot of the times, that's your first step when you're multi-tracking. Yeah, either bass or drums, but
yeah, typically.
Yeah, man, back to tuning drums.
Yeah.
There's so many different philosophies. When I exited school, I became like a total purist. I was into a lot of like avant-garde jazz at this point, like free jazz stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, you got to like tune the drums open,
Like no, you probably hate the way I tune most of the time.
Do you
like
ever tune? I wanted to ask you,
yeah.
Do you ever tune open bass drum when you're doing jazz stuff, or are you always kind of going with the... What do you do?
No,
like
I'll open it up if for I just have a ton of like orphan drums. That's my
Sure.
So when I grab a bass drum for a jazzier gig or something, I have an option that's not too thuddy or stuffed with something. But depends. Yeah.
That's one of the things that I really like to do in our sound files here, because like almost every single shop out there, nobody tunes their drums open. And I do 3 tunings. The first one is a high tuning with an open
When
bass
you say
drum.
open, you just mean no manipulation.
Pretty much, yeah.
Sure, sure.
Open, and then me personally, what I do, I'll have like a t-shirt, right?
Yeah.
And then if I'm playing a gig, if it's like jazz stuff, I'll have mostly completely open, and the thing is you have to have a different technique when it's open because you can't bury the beater.
Right.
You have to pop it. Yeah, and that's why I wear shoes with leather soles.
Whoa.
You dance on the pedal, and that's what they used to do back in the old days, and you just kind of tap it, and it's, I mean, and it's like. A lot of people do that in New York. Eric Binder, he's a fantastic drummer.
Okay.
He's big into, oh my goodness, he worked here for a while, and he would always do his videos, and he cranks those. It's always Max Roach tuning.
Okay, well, yeah, and particularly bass drums. I love Idris Muhammad, who drums on most Curtis Mayfield classic stuff. His bass drum was always tuned. It sounded like a floor tom.
Sure.
And then
does he use like an 18 or?
Yeah, he used an 18, I think, most of the time. And but yeah, it had an awesome high pitched tone in funk soul music, which was really cool.
Sure.
But then
because bass players don't like that because you'll hit a note that they don't like in their range. And I've actually when I got into recording, that's when I really started to understand. Oh, that's what. That's what I don't like.
As often as I can, I try to tune drums to the keys of the songs. Yeah, for sure.
It's
just more complimentary.
Yeah, it's not easy, but sometimes.
So I try to get. I mean, it depends on what key the song's in, but depending on the drum, you try to get it at least to a third or a fifth, depending on what interval's closest, and you try to just make it at least part of the scale, so that your toms and kick and snare are. There's at least not competing frequencies that are like out of the scale.
Right. Yeah. Like a minor ninth.
Yeah, right. Like a snare. I mean that. Or that's cool or something. But yeah, and with bass drums, I totally, I handle it thing by thing. But I have a series of makeshift muffling things. Yeah. And one's a huge blanket, and one's a little piece of sound foam or whatever that I push right up under the beater. Different things that'll muffle it in different ways depending on the session or the day.
Yeah, I think a good thing for drummers to take out of this would be. Try a little bit of everything. Yeah. For people who have never tried tuning them open before, try doing that. And totally. Then also record it and listen to the recording because sometimes maybe it's bothering you when you're playing it, but actually in a recording it sounds great. I find this with snare drums, man. Some old snare drums, maybe Slingerland Radio Kings. They're made with all these weird little imperfections and eccentric little the re-ring is coming off, maybe the bearing edge isn't quite perfect, and they sound kind of dry and boxy when you play them. But it's not this doesn't sound like a DW or a Craviato, but when you put it in recording, it's man, that thing sounds amazing, and it's so dry you don't even have to muffle it at all. Yeah. Whereas a super resonant modern drum, those are so resonant that then you have to do muffling, and that's one thing that I've learned in recording so many. I mean, I've probably recorded more drum sets than almost anyone alive, hundreds and hundreds. Yeah.
Well, and the hard thing to keep track of is all the factors because so I have the bass drum I use the most for just thinking drum by drum, which I do. The bass drum I use the most is either 69, 70, or 71 Ludwig. 3-ply.
Yeah, nice.
But right before they started making the 6-ply.
Is it a 22 or?
It's 20? A 24.
Oh, 24.
Yeah, and it came from a set that I got in LA.
Those always sound good, man.
Yeah, it's great. And I still have a 13 and an 18 floor.
Is it a wrapped drum?
No, it's chipping brown.
Duco or something like that?
Paint? I don't know.
So some of those ones that when they were making
I don't
those,
think Duco. No.
When they were making those drums in the 60s, it was when the Beatles craze happened.
Right.
And Ringo was a Ludwig guy, so they were just pumping those things out.
Right.
And they used to wrap the wrap into the wood seat.
This one's a little different. This is the bottom one. Okay, and I know what you're talking about. And there's also so I don't understand all of this, but this is what I've gathered. And I also had a friend, Chris Fowler, who played in the band Company of Thieves. He drummed for, and then later he played bass, and I drummed for. And he had the exact same set, literally. I think in the same. No, he had the two toms were the same, the 13 and the 18, but they were both this weird brown, and they were from he thought 69, and the guy that I bought mine from said 71. So, and they were not club dates because I had a Ringo set too once, a 65. Club date or whatever with the finish. I saw you have one out front, and it was after that. So and it was the John Bonham floor tom, the big and thin-shelled kind of sound. So that's the kick drum. I use that on a lot of stuff, not jazz. And then I have a Gretsch Broadcaster, an 18-inch.
Nice.
That used to be Joel Spencer's.
An old original 3-ply or what?
No, it was from like the 90s era.
Oh, okay.
Late 90s era, which was nice though, man.
Okay.
Dude, that is honestly one of the most
So that'd be a 6-ply.
interesting sounding. Yeah, right. They're thick and heavy drums. Yeah. But that's a little 18er. And then I have like a couple 20s and 22s that are in different rooms in the studio. So
do you have any kit that matches?
Yeah. I have. There's like a Gretsch Carolina. There's a pork pie.
Nice.
That's a nice, decent
pork
one.
Pie stuff's cool.
Yeah.
It's very hip these days to have like, one Slingerland tom, Ludwig floor tom.
When you're focusing on recording, it doesn't matter what
Sure.
I'm just like, hey, that
cool.
tom sounds good. That floor tom,
right?
Really, because it's not going to matter. Only the sound matters. So.
And so, do you have clients come in and do you get really involved when it comes to the tuning of the drums?
Yeah, if time allows for it.
Sure.
Or depending on, so we do. There's people that'll come in and they'll try to knock out 3 songs in 4 hours or something, and it's like, okay, we'll get it going as quick as we can.
Yeah, then you can't get too picky.
The more in-depth projects, and so for me, it's like half of it is recording bands that already have drummers, and just being an engineer. And we have another engineer there too, Rachel Frazier. She's awesome, and she might know Noah actually. And
cool.
And then,
did I meet her at the get together, the thing? Maybe
I don't think she was at that. I'm not sure, but she plays in an awesome band, Skyline Semblance, and she's a great engineer, man. She's so good.
Nice.
So but
and so when it comes to miking, do you? And obviously, don't give away anything you don't want to. But
I don't care.
Yeah, like what are some of your thoughts?
I was going to say
drums?
and then the other half of what I'm doing is laying down the actual drum tracks. Like I'm drumming on stuff for solo artists.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Those times, I make sure the drums sound as good as I want it to sound.
You're
good.
Definitely.
So I'll take time.
I think you're a good guy to have.
Lay down tracks.
You know what you're doing. Yeah.
Well, I hope so. Yeah.
Been doing it for a while, yeah.
Yeah.
So what are some of your thoughts on miking drums? Do you let's say on a more minimalistic thing? What would you do if you were just doing very few mics for like a jazz setting? I'm curious.
Depends on the room and.
Do you do stereo usually?
Sometimes,
not actually.
Often not. Often not. In terms of an overhead.
Right.
I often use a mono overhead, and we have
mono's got more power.
It's pretty focused. Yeah, I know. And then some in the more elaborate mic setups, both. But yes, I'd say mono probably a little over half the time. Yeah.
Really? That's a lot.
Yeah. And it works great. Even on pop stuff, I'll probably limit. I won't use a second crash.
Do you ever do?
Or I might just use one cymbal.
Do you ever do really weird, unconventional panning kind of stuff?
So I don't mix very much.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's kind of my.
You had told me
niche. I don't like that part of it, and
okay.
And I'm not trained in mixing or anything like that. I only know how to record because I've recorded a lot throughout, and then it was like, okay, I kind of know what to do now.
Sure.
And used to mess around on Logic and stuff. But yeah, so panning and stuff. Yeah, I don't really.
It's really interesting if you listen to early.
I know what
records.
you mean. Yes, I mean.
Yeah, well, like really early records, they didn't have all the. There's a lot of things that we have now, which is like this is the way you do it.
Right.
Like bass, for example, and bass drum. You really want that mono. You want that on
right,
both tracks.
Right.
But back in the old days, that was not a rule.
Sure.
And like old Beatles tracks, that's some of the first stereo stuff. They had actually Sgt. Pepper. I think you get in mono or stereo.
Okay.
If you have the stereo version and you play it, if you play it on only one speaker, you lose like.
I've had that because
sometimes.
like of a busted stereo and stuff.
Yeah, that's how I had my Volvo, the old blue Volvo that I've had. I learned how to drive in that car. One of the speakers is busted. I'm listening like. Where's the drums go? And they come back and then they go. Yeah. And then another really interesting thing, Rudy Von Gelder, because I'm really into jazz. I don't really do pop. I pretty much just do jazz and percussion recording here.
Sure.
I record percussionists. I've done some folk kind of stuff like that, but it's a similar technique. But one thing that's really interesting is Rudy, and the way they did a lot of the early jazz records, they would have like the bass, like Mingus records. Mm-hmm. The bass is all to the left.
All to the left?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then you got like the saxophone on the right.
Interesting.
And the drums are kind of in both because they're in the same room. And
So,
there's bleed because it's all done in the same room. But that's like nowadays in regards like, no, you can't do that. But those records sound fantastic.
Yeah.
And then
absolutely.
Old records always had less low end than modern stuff. That's another thing, man.
Yeah.
Through the 70s and 80s, even up into the 80s, the bass, man. One of the worst things I think is when you get a jazz recording and it's recorded like a house, house music.
Yeah.
You can't it's just not right.
I know. Yeah.
I always kill the bass to the point right where whoever I'm recording is like, I want more of it,
Yeah.
Put it down as far as possible.
Yeah.
Because old record players and old microphones, they didn't even have the ability to capture that low stuff.
Yeah.
Like they would use like maybe a Neumann on the bass drum.
Yeah.
That Neumann is not made like a Shure Beta 52 or like
right.
It can pick up low stuff, but not like
not although I've stuff. There's been nice results from using those kinds of mics.
Oh yeah,
as
totally.
The only kick.
I mean, I use them. I use
Yeah.
My setup is Shure Beta on the bass drum, and this is to try and get a real drum set sound, so people can really to try and put you in the room in front of the kit. That's what I'm trying to do.
Right. You want an honest depiction.
Yeah, totally, as honest as possible. Because in the end of the day, you're not actually there. You're hearing a recording, but I want you to really hear. But Shure Beta on the bass drum. KSM 157, I think.
Snarky Puppy.
On the above for the
Snarky
cymbals.
Puppy is that band.
Yeah.
All right.
I love those guys. Those guys are great.
Yeah. I don't know why that just
this
slipped.
whole time
I kept thinking.
you've been
I kept thinking other
raging
goofy names. I thought Woo Park, this band that was in Chicago for a minute. I just kept thinking. I was like, what's the kitschy sounding word? Oh, snarky.
I did not know they were
Snarky
from
Puppy.
Texas. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're out of North.
I thought they were
North
from
Texas
like New York or something.
University. Well, and I know I got to do better research, but I think that they then became somewhat of a wider, conglomerate of musicians, and they would go and do tours, and they would have local musicians. I think that were part of a larger collective.
I've always wanted to put together a project kind of like that.
Yeah,
it's never really worked out. I've played in a couple groups that are similar, but they're always a little more, out than that. You know what I mean?
Right.
They definitely have like a sound and a direction. Some of their stuff is really awesome, man.
Oh yeah,
they have
when
they play,
you
get like maybe two of the keyboard players, almost like competing with each other,
Yeah.
doing like
Yep.
dueling.
Yeah.
It's very cool. Yeah, It's like that vibe, the old school jazz jam session vibe where you go up and you really show what you got. First tune, if you sit in, they play is like burning,
Sure, yeah. No, but they really appealed to the mainstream, and a lot of that they did through videos and these live sessions. That's the first time I noticed, at least, like the idea of it's big setup with an audience of like 20 people and everyone's got headphones, and that's cool. That's a really cool, and that was like this visual, but still it's meant to be a recorded experience, and they kind of pioneered that. And but they're just like insane musicians, they're great. But then I think they spawned off into this. There's a group called Ghost Note. I think there's a label around them now.
Yeah, I've definitely scoped out their stuff. I really like it. I haven't.
But they probably used quite traditional recording techniques, I imagine, as well, like being a brass and kind of jazz group. Yeah, I like.
I mean, they're all in the
honest,
same room.
Yeah.
For most of that stuff. That's
exactly.
One thing.
Right. It's all live.
I wonder if they do any multi-tracking. I don't think
they might. Maybe in the studio a little. I don't know. But yeah. But I mean, I hear you about the honest mic setups. It's also like what you're doing it for. Like you're doing it for either demo videos or whatever.
Yeah.
But I've been going as far as mixing, at least for these videos, these live videos we've been doing. And yeah, I will actually do some panning, kind of by where people are at in the room of the video. Just because I think, the context that people will probably listen to on a laptop or a phone or whatever, they might be looking, and maybe that gives it a little more dimension than whatever.
That's just what I was just
usually
curious
just stick to. Well, I've heard tricks too, even in the pop realm and everything, of like some engineers swear by like, kick and bass should always be centered, but put the snare like 2 cents left or something, like something really subtle, and it'll. And I've tried that. I usually pan toms just to go with whether you're supposed to feel behind the drum set or looking at it.
I pretty much never do close mics. The only time I like a close mic is if I'm doing brushwork.
Sure.
Then I really like it.
Yeah.
And you just use the SM57, pop that right above the snare, and then you can But yeah, I really like the other one thing too. Yeah, when you get a million mics, you can really run into like phase issues.
You can,
and that can be really, troublesome. But if you only have one mic, you will not run into.
Well, right, yes, yes, but yeah. It's cool, you don't have to be afraid of that. There's ways around. I mean, you can first of all solve the problem there and then, and not have phase issues.
It can never be perfect. It's always do you ever like when you're looking at the wave file? Do you ever like go down to like very small?
Yeah.
And look at the peaks and troughs?
Yeah, right.
And if they're opposite.
Right. If they're opposite, then that's phase.
Then
right.
You just flip. Yeah. Flip.
Yes, exactly. That's what I mean. So if
they're usually like, eh.
Yeah. And that's what's giving it a room sound, though. You know, I mean, that's what's making it sound big, because when you're looking at transients from like samples or whatever, like they're right there and they're all on the click, and it sounds like
in my studio
mechanic.
What I did is
whereas you have a room sound and things are hitting at a slightly different times. Yeah, totally.
I've got the two mics that are the room mics, and I went as far as to like measure it with the measuring tape.
Yeah.
And I would do it, and I'd be like, okay, that one is, and I basically got it so they're like you'll hear the bass drum mic will pick it up.
Yeah.
And then this one will pick it up.
Right.
So you'll have one peak and trough, and then the second one will line up exactly.
Sure. I mean, I just try to stick, if I am doing stereo overheads, basically just equidistant from the snare between 39 and 42 inches away.
Yeah.
And I do measure.
And each room is different because it's all this like crazy.
Yeah, and each cymbal setup, you don't know what part of the cymbal you're kind of trying to highlight, or what other drums might be around it that you're trying to avoid, things like that. That's what I noticed too about doing close miking or whatever. But like so much of the miking techniques are about what you don't want to hear from each mic.
Sure.
So I mean that's interesting, at least with close miking. If you're
Do you use a lot of gates when you
I've never used
mic drums?
No.
You ever go for that? You know how to get that 80s tom sound?
Yes, definitely.
Gated reverb.
Yeah, I know, absolutely, and that's fun. I used that I used a gated reverb on a track, but I've done like cutting, so like. So sometimes you could go as far as using two mics on each tom, a top and a bottom.
Right.
And sometimes, if there's one that you're only getting a little from, I would go between and basically delete the sound in between, only have the sound from the hits and have it fade in. So basically like a mechanic or not a manual gate. Operation.
I'll tell you a secret.
Cut out the white noise.
I use gates on the bass drum mic.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
But I use a very soft gate,
right?
Not a hard gate, because
you'll literally lose the.
It comes in slow and then it goes out even slower.
Yeah,
that's how I do it, and
I'm a stickler about samples too. I don't use samples, and none of the projects that we have other people mix or whatever.
Oh, really?
We try. Yeah, we
pretty much track everything.
Those are all natural sounds. It's great. Yeah,
that would be the same with me. It's everyone else is using samples. Why not make your own?
Yeah, and right, and I guess I don't know. Not doing too much of like the neo metal where it's like just so gridded, and it just And so that's studio, all just samples pretty much. So we don't do any of that. So I don't know.
Oh man, yeah. At the studio, what like genre of music do you record most commonly? I mean, it's obviously not going to be jazz.
I mean, jazz is part of it, definitely. Yeah.
Oh, it's kind of even, a little bit of everything.
It's a little bit of everything. Yeah.
Nice.
So I mean, I don't know. Like rock bands, punk bands, singer-songwriters that we provide the instrumentation and production for. So yeah, pop, alternative rock, indie rock.
We should put a link to something that you've recorded, if it's cool, yeah.
Sure.
And that way that we can, get the word out.
Yeah, but I mean, there's even people doing more electronic sounding stuff, and definitely get in depth with Pro Tools.
Are you a fan of
editing?
Aphex Twin? You like that?
Oh yeah,
that's some of my favorite stuff.
Totally. I've had some people who are kind of doing stuff that's getting there, which is really cool.
I've got a record. Don't know what it's called, but it's all like prepared piano stuff. It's so cool, like really percussive.
Yeah,
just real out there stuff. I love it though, man.
Definitely.
It's a creative dude.
He had a couple, several awesome albums, and then recently I went back and listened to this. He did like a collection called Selected Ambient Works or something.
I think I have that on vinyl too,
dude. And I remember trying to listen to it back when I was into his other stuff, and I was just like, oh, it's a little more ambient, you know. But now I really got it. I was like, this is amazing. Some of his best work.
I really like relaxing ambient music. I've always liked that kind of stuff. It's like stuff that I can kind of work and kind of calms me down.
Yeah,
it's really a cool genre.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's. And just in general, like electronic house music, I like that genre because it's so new compared to most other things. It's so new that the rules are kind of still being written.
Oh yeah, totally.
And that's super cool because there's so much dogma in so many different genres. It's like this is the right way to do it.
Right.
But whereas in that kind of music, it's I mean there are rules, but
I know. There's people out there trying to do new things.
Yeah,
it seems very exhausting.
You know what I do sometimes? I'll take those like house music, and I'll dissect the form.
Oh yeah, right.
And then I'll try and write something myself in that same form. Not doesn't sound anything like what I do, but just.
But you mean from a structure standpoint?
Yeah, just
I know.
Plain old structure.
I was going to say that's one of the things that I think is being taken away from EDM culture, whatever.
Yeah.
Like house music, whatever it's turned into. I think that whether people know it or not, like even bands and stuff, song structure has changed, or maybe it's the ADD. Type of experience. Sure. But like, did you ever hear about XXX Tentacion?
No.
He was like this SoundCloud rapper that, he died recently or a couple years ago. But he was really immensely popular on SoundCloud. And I had drum students that were like, hey, because he used to do tracks with Travis Barker from Blink-182.
Sure.
Yeah, it was like rock rap type of, really interesting. But his songs were very short, and structurally, from a song structure standpoint, I was just like,
I wonder if
this is like super, out of the box.
I wonder if he's ever been to our New York store.
I'm not sure.
What does he play? What's his endorser?
Man, I don't know what it is now, but he used to play like Orange County Percussion.
Yeah.
When he was with, back in the Blink-182 days.
Do you think those?
He might be Gretsch or DW. I don't know.
Who knows? Yeah. Do you think those kits from like the '90s will become collectible? I mean, because here's the thing. It's
what
an
do you
interesting
mean?
question.
That company in particular?
Well, that would be one of them.
Yeah.
I think the ones. It has to be a company that is relevant in that it was big enough that people know what it is.
Yeah.
But then there's also there has to be the
I don't know if Orange County reached a point of Well, no, I mean, I'm sure those kits might be worth something, but yeah, pork pie was real big around then.
That's the problem. Like, there's no rare finish because they're almost all like one of a kind.
Right. Sure, that's a good point.
And that's the thing. Like back in the 60s and 70s, like Mardi Gras. That's like almost very few kits were made. At Fiesta, even less. Yeah. And so once you get one of those, it's like you never see those. But if like every kit was a one-off, then I wonder. I seriously wonder.
But because Orange County is not in production anymore.
Yeah, I guess they're not. I don't think they're making
drums
anymore.
If they're not, then I imagine that those would have some value to them. Yeah, but I know what you mean.
Where like if there's is another one.
SJC is. I was going to say they might have, for all intents and purposes, taken over what Orange County represented. I don't know. Yeah, seems kind of like it. SJC makes great drums. Have you worked with I forget his name.
I have not done anything with SJC.
The guy that runs it is really cool. I have some students who have talked to him plenty. And
it's not. I mean, at our shop we kind of do like a little more traditional like American brands, and they're very. Do
you ever work with Cardwell's
pushing
CNC?
Yeah, a little bit. Although
Jacob,
they're
Cardwell,
in Chicago
Cardwell.
area, it's Music Exchange.
That's right.
They deal with them mostly. I actually, believe it or not, I sold a kit through them to Noah when I first met Noah.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah, and Noah seems like a CNCer.
The CNC that's more up our alley for sure.
Yeah, right.
And we used to, when we were in downtown Chicago, we sold a bunch of their snare drums. They do really cool stuff with abalone, and that was just fantastic. But it just never.
There's a lot of drum manufacturers.
There are too many. Yeah. There's not that many shops. But there are if you go to have you ever been to the NAMM show? I mean, you were in California for a while.
I've been 2 different times. Not for.
Did you enjoy it?
Not really.
Yeah, man, it's so intense. And then you get like people just start jamming.
Yeah.
And then you get like a crowd of like, people, yeah, man, check
Dude,
this guy out. It's like, don't encourage him. It's too loud in here already.
But I like stalkerishly approached so many of my heroes when I was young that I just,
mister.
I don't like doing that
Can I have an
anymore.
autograph?
But so like NAMM, I remember seeing like John Blackwell, rest in peace, but Prince's old drummer. When I went to NAMM, like right when we walked in, I was like, John Blackwell. But like, and then what am I going to do? Just like kind of follow him? I mean,
it's so awkward,
so I
man.
love that
exactly
there's everyone's everywhere, but I don't know what to do with it. Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean. And for me, I love all the old brands. And so it's kind of sad because you go and it's like, okay.
Well, yeah, looking at stuff. Now,
Rogers
that's
is back
fun.
now, though, which is cool.
Yeah. But looking at stuff is fun. Now, the Chicago Drum Show, that was fun. I saw it. That's where I ran into you.
For me, that's a more fun show. Yeah, you were have you, you grew up around here. Did you ever do like a clinic when you were younger?
Not there. No, not that thing.
Remember Hannah Ford? She
Yeah.
she started doing clinics there when she was really young.
Yes. And so one of my students also hooked up with Hannah and was taking lessons with
What's
Hannah.
your last name now? It's not Ford anymore. I can never remember.
Welton.
Yeah, Welton, right.
So her dad, Dave, took on a student of mine and he started to get him all this experience and hooked him up with all these opportunities. And one of them was doing a clinic at the Chicago Drum Show like last year or 2 years ago or something.
Cool.
So yeah, drummer Jake D represent. He's a very talented young man.
She went to Roosevelt when I was there.
Okay.
I got to hang out with her a couple times. She's really cool.
Yes, totally.
and
Totally.
Yeah,
she's incredible, man. Yeah, she's a great drummer.
Yeah.
I saw her. She did a clinic right after Jake, last year or 2 years ago. It's great, man. As soon as she started playing, she was just so in the music, like really.
Yeah.
And that's I don't know.
Did you catch Paul Wertico's clinic last time?
No.
I saw some of it. Yeah, Paul's
That's
great,
cool.
man.
Paul's incredible.
Real creative. Yeah, he's really into these days, like kind of more free and like utilizing the drums and.
He's always definitely
ways.
gotten outside the box type of stuff, which is so inspiring. Like early on, I still have all these like little tricks that I remember seeing him do in drum solos. Like one of them's like just playing on the snare drum or whatever, and you manage to get your foot up and you start to mute the drum as you're.
You know what my dad used to do, man? My dad had a floor tom and he tied a string to it.
Okay, well, so Glenn Kochi from Wilco.
Does he do that?
Yeah, well, he does a thing where he has like a blow tube into one of his floor toms.
Yeah.
So he'll blow in it while he's rolling on it timpani style.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really cool. He's incredible.
I think I've seen.
And he gave a clinic at that drum show too.
Right.
Literally that same day. That was a banging day, I guess.
For sure. It's so sad they canceled it this year, but they had to. I mean, I understand.
I know. Definitely.
That's too many people in one room.
Uh-huh.
But man, that's just. It's such a fun, goofy hangout with all these people that you only see once
I got
a year.
a great deal on like an Acrolite.
Oh, nice.
There was somebody there that
Do you guys have a Supra at the studio?
No, I don't think so.
Gotta get a Supra, man.
Give me one.
I'll sell you one.
Okay.
I'll give you a good price. That is the snare drum. I mean, you can get away with an Acrolite though. You have an Acrolite. Yeah. Honestly, they sound very similar.
I have two different Acrolites. One's the student model. One's I think a little.
If you ever have any extra cash, though, it's the Supra, just aluminum Supra. You don't have to have a brass one. Actually, it's funny.
So there's Supraphonic, super sensitive would be different.
Super sensitive has,
which I like those too.
That's one right up there.
Okay.
The super sensitive has like a special kind of strainer that pulls it across in a different way.
Okay.
And
Black Beauty
was
and
if you go back, it changes because
the ones that they come out with now sound really good.
The modern Black Beauties, a lot of them are. There's really not too much different between the mechanism because it's going to be a brass shell,
right.
But sometimes they're even many different kinds of metal. But with the black, I guess it's like some kind of lacquer on there. But the original ones were like engraved.
Okay.
And they would be the really old snare drums. Like every part, this is like 20s, 30s. Every part is brass. On a lot of them, even the tension rods are brass.
Is that like this guy?
That is like, that's an odd drum. I think that is.
There might be some copper.
It's actually brass.
Brass.
It's just aged. And that one, I can't remember. It's listed on the website. It's either like a Leedy or. And that's essentially almost like a student model drum. The Ludwig called them Pioneers, and they're actually really good sounding drums. But they're very ringy. I love them for jazz with like a calf head on them because it's like really dry when you play on it, but then you do a rim shot and you get that really beautiful high brass resonance.
Mm-hmm.
But for modern stuff, a lot of those drums that you do rim shots and it's just such a high pitched ring that sometimes that bothers people. I like them though, and that's why the Supras are great.
Yeah.
They have steel hoops and then they have an aluminum shell, so it's really easy to dial in and it's a less of a ringy sound.
Best snare. So many of the best snares I've ever played have been Ludwig's though. One was a Craviotto.
Yeah, Ludwig
one was definitely a Craviotto. When I was in LA, I had a friend who had one.
Nice. Do you remember the kind of wood? It was probably maple. They're almost all maple. That was Johnny's favorite.
Think so. It wasn't that deep. It was like 60s.
They were made in California.
Ah.
Yeah, Johnny. Now they're made in
Oxford? No, that's DW.
Oxnard. Yeah, that's. Although DW did use his shells at one point.
Okay.
For their.
Timeless,
I think it was timeless timber stuff. Really, really high quality wood.
But there was Craviotto, and then Black Beauty. Nowadays, I played on a deep, super sensitive. That was really awesome. And then an Coliseum, Ludwig Coliseum snare. It was 8x14.
Yeah.
And it, man, it
wood
was
shell in there.
Yeah, wood shell. And the guy I was playing for, the singer, he demanded I use it. It was his snare, and I was like, yeah, definitely, it's rightfully so. But he had like lug locks that I don't know. It was just the tightest, most dialed in, snarey, punchy thing. It was great. So
Man,
I don't have one. I have this like 8x14. I think it is brass actually, Ludwig.
Yeah. Do you tune your snare high usually, or are you more?
So I don't know, probably 50-50. But even if I'm tuning them high, sometimes I'll do high and dampened, to a certain degree, so that it's cracks, but it's not ringy.
Bad. My dad definitely tunes it pretty
Sure.
high.
I don't leave them. Yeah, and I do often tune them low, so, depending on.
Do you know Charles Rumbeck? He's a local guy.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, he did a podcast a little while ago. Man, he tunes his snare. He's a very, very soft touch player.
Sure.
And he tunes his snare very low. Same with Noah. Noah tunes his snare very low.
Sure.
And then he gets those really soft hits. Actually,
sure.
Yeah, man, one of the things that I've been practicing lately is like, you learn all the coordination exercises and you learn all that kind of stuff. Lately, I've been really practicing like on how loud my comping is versus my ride cymbal.
Sure.
And really trying to... Like one thing, like you don't want to be heavy-handed with jazz,
right?
And if you comp really, really quietly, so you almost can't even hear it, it's so much better. And that's what Charles does, and you do that too. Actually, you've got a nice. I haven't seen you play a lot of straight-ahead jazz lately.
Sure.
But
nor have I.
But yeah, that's one thing. Not enough people think about that. Just
it's
true. I know
true.
you can do triplets against but what this
absolutely.
Who cares?
Well, dude, I'll tell you what.
Volume.
Yeah, and back to like the studio mindset or whatever. But that's like this whole idea of self-mixing.
Yeah.
Because you have 4 limbs and you're playing all these different sounds.
Right.
But stylistically, that's what I struggled for several years getting out of the like. I grew up a jazz drummer and learned technique a certain way, and then I wanted to play like more simple rock and singer-songwriter stuff.
So and
I wanted to be
gigs.
a groove drummer. Yeah, I wanted to be a groove drummer and sound like Steve Jordan or whatever.
Make music that people enjoy.
Sure,
they're not like.
Yeah.
Sometimes jazz can be a little bit like.
Yeah.
You have to like this,
right?
Because it's
But I would
music.
toggle between those types of gigs, and I still do. And but like one of the things that would get me back into the jazz mindset was exactly that, where I'd think, rock, you're thinking you're trying to have your left hand have a lot of motion and a lot of range of motion and everything to get a big backbeat, and so jazz I'd try to like think on top of it with the right, and you want to hear more ride. Like ride covering the snare,
totally,
whisperness.
Man. That's something I never thought about in high school, and sometimes you wonder like, man, why don't these guys want to play with me? And maybe think about that. And the guys that really like, people want to jam with, it may have something to do with that. Like, no, you got all the coordination down.
Right,
it's those little things that bring you from being like very proficient amateur to like pro.
The ride is like all you need. I don't know. I used to hear this tale of this great jazz drummer, Leon Parker. He was a New York guy. You could say avant. He played with Bill Frisell a good amount, I think, but not that well known of a guy. But he was known for, I guess he like held a Sunday afternoon like brunch gig with like a trio that he would only have a ride cymbal. Yeah. And he would do 2 hours with this trio or whatever every Sunday would just ride. And like that, I was always like, hell yeah, like that's right. But like that's, you know, when you're in that jazz mindset, that is your timekeeper. That is your you know, your focus in terms of pulsing drummer, and the rest is kind of
just a ride. Like you wouldn't even have a kit.
Yeah,
that's great, man. You don't
that was the story. I never saw him do it. I forget what, you know, maybe some modern drummer article I read that in or something like that.
There's a lot of good stories. Like Papa Joe used to do. Everyone would come and they'd be doing all, you know, Buddy Rich, Louis Bellson. You know, you got all these. You know, and then he'd come out just with like a hi hat and just blow everyone away and with the
huge smile and be No, he was a crazy influence. You know, he's one of my favorites, Joe Jones.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. He's probably my all-time
man, honestly.
favorite drummer. There's
I know. And I wish he did more. Wasn't there's some trio record that he's on that I need to look up again, but I remember
he played with an organ player a lot.
Okay. But like small group stuff, you know, not bassy stuff. What was it?
Milt Buckner or something
Okay. I want to say he might have been but I don't know. I want to hear more records of him that aren't big band necessarily. Because
there's a really cool video of him jamming with Russell Malone.
Okay.
Wait, is it Russell Malone? No, it's not Russell Malone. He's much later.
That's
It's he did a lot of smooth jazz stuff.
I think
really
Russell
famous.
Malone did.
Russell Malone did, but this
Ramsey Lewis.
No.
Okay.
I can't. I can't remember his name, but there's a video with him playing in the 70s with a tap dancer, guitar, and the drums.
Okay,
it's
totally.
So
that's what I'm talking
man.
about. Yeah.
He's got a Ludwig kit with a pillow in the bass drum, no front head.
That's cool.
And it's man, it's just amazing.
That's awesome.
It's so perfect because he's like smiling and he traded 8s with the tap dancer.
Oh, nice. That's
so
perfect.
Cool,
right. Well, that's what he sounded like. He sounded like tap dancing.
Yeah.
You know. But which was like kind of that 40s 50s style.
He was a tap dancer.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. But
a lot of those guys.
But I think he did it particularly well.
Oh,
You know, like he really. Yeah, everything he played had such intention and clarity, like really amazing technique and stuff. Yeah.
I wish I could go back in time and see him play.
Yeah, absolutely.
He probably played at the Jazz Showcase.
My mom. So I always remember this, but when I was getting into jazz so much in middle school, we were doing a bassy song or whatever, and I listened to the original recording, and I found out who Papa Joe Jones was, and then I told my mom, like on the ride home from school, I was like, oh, there's this great drummer, Papa Joe Jones, I'm getting into him, and she was like, he used to sleep on my couch.
Really?
Yeah, because her dad was, you know, best friends with bassies, so the band would stay like at their place
crazy,
a lot. Yeah, I know, and I'm like, what? That's weird.
Jeez. Yeah, man.
But yeah, he's seriously one of my favorites. And he taught. He was a, prolific teacher.
My dad got to take some lessons from him.
Wow.
And that's
cool.
Really, really interesting guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I wish I could. I almost took a lesson with Joe Morello.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one time when I went to New York before he died, because he had like an ad in like Modern Drummer, he had like an ad for like, yeah, man, dude, the last several years of his life or whatever, he was like just, charging a decent coin and it was like tourists, drummers that would be in New York, be like, yeah, lesson with Joe Morello.
Nice.
Yeah, he had an ad in Modern Drummer, yeah. But I don't know.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. Anything more you want to go into about the studio? Maybe just
not much.
Shout out for any albums that are coming out. People can go check out. Like I said, I'll put a link to something. But
sure.
I don't know if anything comes to mind.
We'll put a link up. I'm trying to think of anything that's been coming out. I don't know. There's a good band, Stellar West, that's going to be releasing an album pretty soon. It's being mixed. There's a band called Life Looks Good that just put out an EP not too long ago.
You guys got a website, of course.
Yeah, well,
I'll put a link to that.
The website's, it's kind of basic information, but Instagram, sound_summit, Facebook, /Sound Summit Studios.
I want to bring my band and record at your place one of these days.
Oh, dude, that'd be fun.
Because I always record myself, and it's fun, but it's so stressful.
Sure.
Because especially when I'm using the tape machine, it's like there's so many things that could go wrong.
Yeah.
And then you get like a great take, and then it's like, oh, it didn't record.
Sure.
It's like, and with the tape machines, it's literally if you press one wrong button, that can happen, and it's just it's so stressful. Whenever I do that, I'm sweating because I'm literally I'm running around, busting my butt, setting up all the mics, and then to have someone else to like help me would be just like. it would almost feel like I was like on vacation. You know?
Oh, totally,
like,
totally. I know.
And do you want to say what you guys like charge per hour? On
It's 60 an hour for 1, 2, 3, 4 hours. 55 if it's a 5 or more hour session.
And do you have maybe
like, if it's like a big project and it's like multiple days, we can figure out
kind of like a
further
flat
price
fee
break
or something like that.
Yeah, full day rates and stuff. Yeah,
sure. Cool, man.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, and the thing there is we're really about resourcing, at whatever level to make the project happen the way it should, whether that's spending more time on pre-production or how we go about recording. The question is always like, what's the budget? How much time do we have? How do we want it to sound though? Because in order for albums to sound a certain way, they sometimes they have to be multi-tracked. I mean, it's just like you're not all gonna
get that
play it perfectly
real clean,
live.
Professional sound.
Yeah.
Nothing, like every time you do a record in one room, you're gonna have sympathetic vibration if the snares are on.
Sure.
That's just there. It's there the whole time.
Sure. Right.
Unless you turn snares off.
Well, and I find right now recording live is thankfully that's kind of in style, and so sometimes depending it really helps to do maybe just a couple elements live. So I like to be, because it's also about you're focusing on the tones of that instrument that you're recording, and you're focusing on the performance of the person recording it. So if you do everything live, it's like, okay, we're trying to judge 5 people at once,
Sure.
So it's but if you're doing it to a click, then you can trade out takes, you can comp, you can edit, punch in, and everything.
You guys do a lot with like scratch tracks,
right? Yes, and I'm a big fan of that. So a lot of times I like to just get drums and bass together live. I feel like that gives a nice live feeling foundation to then add stuff on top of. And but get the whole band, get everybody at least mic'd up to do scratch so that it feels like you're playing it. Not just with the metronome or whatever.
And, like if you're the drummer, you want to lay the drums down first.
And you want to lay it down to something.
Right. And like some
that's
drummers,
part of it.
they like know the form so well that they can like do that.
Yep.
With me, I mean, I'd have to have played a tune a lot to be able to do that. There are some that I could.
Right.
Like you kind of sing it to yourself while you're going, but
right.
I feel like I'd like drop a bar or something,
I know, and I've changed, or like I don't know. I always go back and forth, but I call it like recording blind or whatever. But I used to love it. I used to like do sessions for people where they'd scratch track along with me, and then after 3 takes, I'd be like, okay, can you stop or whatever, and then I just love the click. But no, now I like recording. I think it's good to have something to sort of inspire what it's going to feel like, Do
you do most of your stuff to clicks, or do you?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're multi, you kind of have to. I mean, you can get away sometimes without doing it, but most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, there's definitely bands that it's not meant for them, or they don't have to, or whatever.
Ever,
they just
with your own playing,
they're not going for that.
Do you ever like do the whole like click obsession to try and get your time perfect? I was listening to a podcast on I think it was Modern Drummer, and these guys, I was just like, man, you guys, maybe you're focusing a little bit on the wrong thing, because he's like every morning I wake up and I check these guys are trying to make it so they know in their head every beat per minute. You call it out and they got it right on.
Yes, that's totally.
That's not me, man.
Well, there's some, I think I can somewhat easily find like 180, 140, 120.
You have good time
but that's because most songs, or a lot of songs fall in those ranges, so I can think of references. I know I obsess if it's supposed to sound like that. So I did a session the other night, and there was we did multi-track it, but we recorded 5 things in one day or whatever, and I just laid down like quick drums, and I think by the end of the day we were like it started as like these might get replaced, these might just be scratch drums, but we'll record it well enough to see. And then the singer really ended up liking it, so we're just like, okay, we'll keep those drums.
Nice.
So and that's fine for the project. And that was not, it didn't need to be directly, there's a little push and pull. And it's backbeat music, but it's with brushes.
Having good time is such
most
an
of the
interesting
time,
thing.
Yeah. But most of the time I like to be as and I edit extensively if needed.
Like one of the aspects of having good time that sometimes people don't get into, like I guess for all forms, although you don't do too many ballads outside of jazz. You really don't. There are some, but it's fairly uncommon. Yeah. More pop stuff. There's like a zone of time.
Moody tracks.
Yeah. Sure. But yeah, man, like doing a ballad, like really getting a ballad right. Mm-hmm. Do you count to yourself in triplets or 16th notes?
Well, depends on what the song is supposed to feel like.
Right. Yeah. It gets to the point almost of like being a dirge, but it's interesting because sometimes like what is good time? I guess good time means that like it fits to the music. But there's different things. Like if you're doing swing time.
See, I know, and this would be sort of an opinion-based thing. I do think that good time is essentially metronomically perfect time. I think that us as humans are capable of it. I certainly don't achieve it like without a clicker.
You have really good time. I would say that about your playing. I don't really have.
But I know what you mean though, and I would take it back like 10%. But I know what you mean where you're like, oh, it's about the feel, and sometimes the feel might not be metronomic. I tend to think it can't, like, the metronomic feel is going to feel the best or something. See, like to remain where you're supposed to remain. I don't know. Transitions speed up sometimes, all that, whatever.
It depends on the style. Like for me.
But like, okay, these days, Watermelon Man, Headhunters, that bugs me. That Harvey Mason sped up so much. Yeah, it just bugs me.
Just can't be happening.
Yeah, it speeds up a lot, man.
Drummers are obsessive about this, man. We're like timekeepers. That's what we do.
Right.
But I think that for jazz especially, like, I don't know. For me, right, if I can play to a click really well, I'm actually really good at it.
Yeah.
But if I'm not playing to a click, it depends. If I'm doing like straight eighth notes, then I think being metronomic is really, really important.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
But if it's the more loose triplet-y kind of thing, and especially if it's jazz that's like fast and high energy, I almost think there's a form of
That's kind of different. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Check this out, man. This is my theory, right? And it's pushing the time, right? Mm-hmm. So you're not making it faster. It's almost like you're skipping.
You're always catching up to it.
You're skipping like an eighth or a 16th of a beat every 4 beats. You dig? Like, so it's not actually in 4. It's in some weird odd time signature that is constant. And if you listen to drummers like Buddy Rich, for example, there's so much energy because he does that. And it's almost like rushing, but it's not really rushing because it's not a train that's out of control. It's just like always you know what I mean?
Well, yes.
To me, that's what like good energetic
yeah, no, that's
swing
so
is.
Interesting. That's so interesting. And yeah, I can't. But I do think that his amount of time in between each beat is even. It is relative to itself. But I know what you're saying. I would say that he is wherever the metronomic time is. He is slightly ahead of it the whole time, and that's why it feels that way. And that's what I see as I get really deep into Pro Tools tracks. There's a lot of times where it's you literally see it compared to the grid. It's like, oh, it's falling behind. Sure. It sounds fine, but that's why it feels like that, because it's literally behind a little bit.
Yeah, man.
Consistently behind or consistently pushing and ahead. Yeah.
People are getting extreme with that kind of stuff now. When I was at your place, what do you call it? Everyone was doing, it was kind of like funky, like hip hop. Is it the Philly feel?
Yeah,
Is that
no,
what you
okay.
call it? Everyone was playing that. Like everyone got up there.
It's from, you can call it like, I don't know, laying back on the beat or glitch hip hop.
That is one thing I cannot do it. I have never studied. I've never tried to do it. I kind of want to learn how to do it, but I cannot do that.
I feel like Chris Daddy Dave is like the only one who can do it in a way that is, aesthetically pleasing to me.
Your kids were good. It was a
great
jam
I know. Yeah, definitely.
They were killing it, man.
That kind of comes from this one hip hop producer, Jay Dilla, who was really popular in LA in the 90s, and he died in like 96. But all these rappers have kept his feel alive. There's been so much homage to him, and he used to do these weird things where it would basically...
It's like a hiccup almost.
Well, and you could argue that a lot of it came from... like Questlove talks about this in interviews. He's like a Dilla freak. But like... it came somewhat from when you would try to create a loop and it wouldn't be perfect. And there would be a glitch. Yeah. And so, but people started to like the way that felt.
Hey, man,
it was consistent.
Let's use that.
Yeah. No, totally. But then it went from the digital form into a acoustic way of feeling it. And
it's so weird. It's so weird to me because I mean, I've just spent my whole life. There's like my loose jazz feel, and then if I keep it real simple, I do have like a straight eighth note feel, which can, like I said, then I'm really trying to be metronomic.
Yeah.
I don't do a lot of that because I prefer to do loose.
You know what I
stuff.
do? Well, here, two things. Well, that are related, but I either picture percussionists, shakers of this, something like that, subdivisions, you know, instead of thinking of like 1 knee and a 2 or whatever, just you know, if you're playing.
Are you saying to get the hiccup kind of thing?
To try to remain.
Oh, to get real metronomic.
Yeah, to have real metronomic time.
Oh yeah.
And also to get good at playing shakers.
Sure.
Seriously, like, you know, and I've had students work on it and stuff. But if you get this like egg shaking thing, like you put that on a ride cymbal, you're literally you're feeling all the in betweens. You start to become aware of the backstroke a little bit.
Vertigo talks a lot about that.
Really?
A lot of his flat ride techniques were kind of
man.
and Matheny, it's like I always call that like the ECM feel.
Yeah, straight and up tempo and digging.
That's actually one of the styles I really enjoy playing. Yeah, fusion ECM.
Like, I know I haven't jammed like that in a minute on that ECM type of feel. Yeah, I used to be obsessed with that stuff.
We do that all the time, man. My saxophone player in my band, he always writes these really deep harmonic tunes which have that kind of like it's almost like an ethereal feel. You're not really keeping the time, you're almost like playing over the time.
Yeah.
You're not laying it down, you're trying to like float it.
Right. But it was also a nice,
not heavy on the bass drum too. I kind of pop the bass drum in, and the way I do it, I don't do a repetitive bass drum hit. So that's what keeps it real, not grounded.
Right.
Kind of flying
it's more of a improvisational.
And the bass,
element,
the bass in that form of music becomes the foundation, not your.
So that's
bass
interesting because it's straightened out. It's straight. It's not swung.
Right.
But the characters of the sounds remain the jazzy way, where it's all ride cymbal driven.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, other things are able to be free.
It's fusion, man.
Yeah.
Seriously,
but now,
70s,
but jazz now, or like
pinnacle of music.
modern jazz is really influenced by hip hop, and I would say it's shifted to what I'd call like a backbeat music.
Jazz is such a weird word, man. Like, what does it mean?
Well, right. I don't know. At this point, I think it means
we could have a whole podcast
improvisation. I think it means heavily improvised. You know.
Yeah.
I think that's
descending
to me,
from the American improvised style.
yeah. And I mean, you could argue that the term jazzy has become just as relevant as in terms of describing things. Well, really, because I mean, there's a lot of things where you'd say like, well, that's not jazz.
It was originally jazz. It used to have two
S's. Right. It had the two S's. Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, it's a relative term at this point. But I do think to me, it still means mostly improvised or heavy improvised elements. You know.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Doesn't have to be swing though. I never thought that. No matter what Wynton Marsalis said. I don't think. Yeah, I think
he's kind of conservative. He's got a very.
Yeah. No, he's fine.
I mean, we could keep on going forever. You probably got to get out of here.
Yeah.
I think pretty much all music that comes from kind of the American school has some sort of swing, because even like the best drummer does not have computer time, and that's the difference. And in my experience, when I listen to like Europeans, for example, to my ear, a lot of European drummers, they tend to have more straight time, and a lot of American drummers tend to have. I mean, it's almost like where you put the grace notes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And most guys, they can kind of do both, but that like grace note spacing, it can't really be fit in to either a triplet or a dotted eighth. It's in between, and that to me means that pretty much all humans playing drums have some kind of swing, and that's why the difference instantly if it's a human or if it's a computer. You know it.
I see what you're saying.
At least I do. I mean, I probably get 9 out of 10.
I think it can be achieved though, where you don't have any, where you really are, executing the grid of straight
to the nanosecond.
And well, yeah. I mean, you're not playing anything that would fall on the swung part of the grid. You're playing what would fall on the actual straight, part of the grid. I don't know, like people like Johnny Rabb or Questlove.
Yeah,
I think they're just so. But I like a swaggery swing anyway. I don't know if that's what you mean.
Do you like
the way that
Jojo Mayer?
Yeah. Okay. So him too. I think he's.
What about? Do you like Steve Smith?
Yes, love Steve Smith.
Both of those guys, in my opinion, they can do both. They can do like a real like kind of open American style. Like it's in my opinion.
But Steve Jordan.
Yeah,
like John.
Sure.
Yeah. So I would say with him, it's like even if he was playing what he thought was a straight beat, I would think it felt a little swung.
Right.
He's got enough of that. And like to what you're saying, I think there's a few drummers that I would say like, oh no, they play really straight. But otherwise, you're right. There is always kind of a certain element of swagger, even if it's straight.
Yeah, it's like a shuffle kind of thing. I mean, blues has it, jazz has it. You get the Chicago blues, and then like funk stuff has it. Everything up through the '70s, and then after that.
Yeah, but what about Technically, though, I mean like Actual Proof or like any of those funk songs, they don't have any
back in the day.
Technically,
computer beats didn't exist, and then you get like Kraftwerk and all those early like bands, which is an awesome group, by the way. Everyone should check out Kraftwerk music.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And that's when there was like, and then people started to try and emulate that. But if you look before that, like everything has some kind of swing to it, in my opinion. And then people and actually it's funny because. They're too like we are.
I'm trying
robots.
to think of like what's the straightest song I can think of.
Sure.
Before
where someone's really.
Beats. But you're right. Yeah.
Because that's the thing. They really don't.
You're right. Well, I mean, and even like the pop music then, Motown, Earl Palmer, and like all those like backbeat grooves were definitely swinging.
They were swinging and shuffle. Yeah. Seriously, man.
You're right.
It's and that's to me that's kind of like the American like drum, and that's how the drums grew up.
So okay, but Pink Floyd, I feel like Comfortably Numb is like not swung.
Yeah, it's so minimalistic.
Yeah, right. Then he's not landing on anything that's
eighth notes. He's just hitting straight eighth notes.
Sure. So that feels very straight to me. Even the fills, stuff like that. It feels very straight.
I would say though those.
But you're right, but you said it was American music that's what's defining is a swing.
See,
so
and also the Beatles, man. The Beatles they have very
Ringo swung no matter what.
But I think it was a little less though. It was more straight because when you get it to the point where you're playing quarter notes and eighth notes.
Something in the way. I'm just trying to think of straight Beatles songs.
Sure.
But no, I mean I feel like he had a swingy feel too. Just in my opinion.
Think about compare like Ringo
in a good way.
To the drummer for Hendrix, Mitch Mitchell.
Yeah.
Compare those, and Mitch Mitchell to me is more of that like American influence, whereas Ringo's a little more of that European kind of stuff.
Yeah. Mitch Mitchell is one of my favorites.
I mean that guy, he's great. You know the 1979 a Merman or something.
I don't know.
Me and Ben Haley used to always play it. Huh. He did it for his senior recital. You remember Ben?
Kind of vaguely.
Long hair.
Yeah.
Mitch Mitchell in the middle of it does this really awesome drum solo, and we were talking about panning before. They do the panning.
They pan,
left and right,
cool.
so it's like whoa.
Yeah.
It's very trippy.
Well, I feel like Mitch Mitchell is like. There was this whole swath of drummers that were rock and roll drummers but they came out of like the big band style. So whether they had like a drum teacher or whatever, like they
totally
they grew up playing kind of like the jazzy way, and now they're playing rock. And I think Mitch Mitchell did it like the best, in my opinion.
I love
because like Ginger Baker considered himself jazz trained.
And he's British. Yeah.
Yes, right, yeah. But like a lot of those drummers then where there was a lot of snare rolling going on still in rock music.
Right.
You don't hear a lot of snare rolling anymore.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That was like Mitch Mitchell's signature to me. Is that like that was rock and roll with like a lot of jazzy snare rolling and something like that.
My rock feel is a lot like his. I think it's it's loose, and I mean I can play like really really straight. It's just I just don't really practice it. I don't really enjoy it, and that's why that you really need to practice that really straight stuff before you start doing that hiccup stuff that we were talking about earlier, the Philly stuff.
Exactly. It has to be a choice. Yeah,
totally.
I've heard that done really poorly. The laid back hiccup thing. Yeah.
The Philly thing. Eric Binder used to do that stuff too. Okay. It's so interesting, man. Yeah. Another thing about modern drummers that I find, and then getting kind of emulating that computer thing. A lot of drummers, they almost sound like they've already been compressed when they play.
Yeah.
Everything is very dynamically kind of, homogenous.
Sure, that all in the same range.
Sometimes that's good.
Yeah.
But it's funny, the old school, the jazz guys from back in the day, they were not like that.
Sure.
They'd be like real quiet, and then bam, you hit like a rim shot. And if you're ever doing gain levels, my dad is an example of this. you know, whatever you think of my dad's playing. I mean, he's a great player.
Yeah.
He's so dynamic.
Yeah.
No one plays like that anymore.
Sure.
When I'm trying to get the levels for him, oh my goodness, man.
Sure.
It's so difficult
Yeah.
because he's playing, and then I got him. Okay, they're right, and then a rim shot comes, and it's
Yeah.
like, whoa,
It's different.
Well,
yeah, totally.
That's dynamic playing. And
Right.
That's one of those things that is, you know, I'm trying to do it. Yeah, like when I do my little videos and demos, you know, I'm always trying to work on it. If I do one and I kind of play everything at the same volume, I'm like, that one wasn't very good.
Yeah, I know. I'm always trying to play harder. That's what's hard for me.
Trying to play
harder.
Oh, like louder?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I don't. I think people play too loud. I think you're great, man. I think you should just keep on doing what you're doing.
No, but I mean, you know,
some people hit the drums so hard.
And sometimes it sounds really good though. You know, like look at Paul McCartney's drummer now, Abe Laboriel Jr. I mean, that guy just destroys drums. Yeah. Or there's a drummer that used to play in the band
I did that when I was like
Under Oath.
16, you know?
Well, yeah, but you can do it with control. You can do it and make the drums speak, and it's a beautiful thing to have a backbeat that solid and that present. So yeah, that's
get a good workout too. Get blisters on your fingers.
Well, not if you're doing it right, you won't. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, if you have proper technique and
oh man, if you're doing traditional grip though, man.
No, yeah,
that's
why I switched from traditional grip. I couldn't get a big enough consistent.
I don't use it for rock. Yeah, if I'll do it for some of the tunes, but yeah, seriously, if I play like a 2-hour show, at the end of the show, my finger hurts, so I switch over.
Sure. Yeah.
But anyway, Charlie, we can do another one at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe give it a year. We
fun.
can do another one. There's so much cool stuff to talk about, but we should probably
let's wrap it.
Yeah, wrap it, everyone.
Yeah.
Come check out Charlie Dresser. You want to do a shout out again for the studio?
Sound Summit in Naperville, Illinois. Sound Summit Studios on Facebook. Sound Summit on Instagram.
Check it out. It's a really cool spot.
Recording, rehearsals. Yeah. Practice spaces.
And we'll put
and
up
a record
some
shop downstairs, Purple Dog Records. Yeah.
Downtown Naperville, great place to grab a bite to eat as well.
Yeah.
And come check out Maxwell Drums. Everybody listening probably knows where we are, Glendale Heights. We got the New York shop, and then Forks down in Nashville as well. So just everyone, thanks for listening, and that's all.
Nice.